We have one bill on the calendar today. Ms. Winfrey, would you read it in?
Senate Bill 256 by Senator Jay Morris provides for a clerk of court in Orleans Parish.
Senator Morris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, appreciate you being here this afternoon. Senate Bill 256 does something which I believe probably should have been done a long time ago, and that is combine the clerks of the criminal district court and the civil district court in New Orleans. As you all know, it's the only parish in which there are two clerks of court. Every other parish has one. And in addition, the way it works in every other parish is that the clerk filings for recording mortgages and deeds and things of that nature, and the filing fees for filing lawsuits and responses to lawsuits, et cetera, fund primarily the clerk of court's office. The criminal side does not have those kind of revenue streams. And so in every other parish, the clerk and the court system rely upon the civil fees to help fund the criminal side. And that doesn't exist in New Orleans. And so this bill, in conjunction with other bills that are going through the process, will combine that in New Orleans. The bill, as I mentioned, is going to combine these two offices. And, you know, just to give everyone an idea, if you don't already know, in New Orleans in 2025, there were a total of 3,953 filings, criminal court filings, and there were 11,806 civil cases, for a combined total of 12,013. In East Baton Rouge Parish, there were 17,000 civil cases as opposed to 12,000, and there were 6,300 criminal cases as opposed to 3,900, and there were 15,000 traffic matters that came through East Baton Rouge Clerk's office. For a total of 38,000. Of course, Orleans has a separate traffic court, so they don't hear any traffic court in either the civil or the criminal district court there. That's the gist of what the bill does. And, I'll answer any questions that I can.
Representative Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, Senator Morris.
Hello.
So the purpose of your bill has two purposes: to combine the funds of criminal and civil district court for the parish of Orleans. That's correct?
Yes.
And to combine the clerks of criminal and civil district court.
Correct.
That's correct?
Yes, sir.
When would that occur?
Upon a signature of the governor.
Okay. So let's say in a week or so, your bill will be effective. What would that do, being the fact that the state, you would agree that the state last year advertised an election for the 2026 to 2030 term for criminal and civil clerk, conducted an election was held, the results were certified, there was declared a winner by the Secretary of State, and any moment the Secretary of State is going to perform her ministerial duties of issuing commissions to the declared winners of those offices for the upcoming term. Is that correct?
Correct.
So if your bill is signed into law, what happens to the declared winners of the election that was held in the fall of last year?
They wouldn't be able to take office because the office wouldn't exist anymore.
You've been here a while, and I'm not going to date you, but you're 38 and you appear to be a little older than me. Has there ever been a point in time where the state has conducted an election, certified the results of an election, declared winner, and literally at the 11th hour abolished an office?
I don't know.
Has it ever? Where are you from, Senator Morris?
Monroe, Louisiana,
What parish is that?
Ouachita.
Has it ever and have you been a lifelong resident of Ouachita Parish?
No,
Okay. Has it ever occurred in anywhere that you were from?
I don't know.
Okay.
It may have, it may not have. I don't know.
Are you a lawyer?
I am.
Do you have any reservations that if this bill were to pass, we would be exposing to the state to potential litigation on constitutional claims that we're infringing on the rights of the citizens of a locality who voted for a particular candidate, and at the 11th hour, we're going to say, you know what? You had an election, you voted, and then right before that person's slated to take office, we're going to say, your office doesn't exist.
And your question is, do I think there's going to be litigation?
Yes.
I suspect there probably will be. I don't know that it'll be successful, but
Why do you think there'll be litigation?
because it's been threatened, and everybody, well, I say everybody, a lot of people have said that all over newspapers and social media and that kind of thing. But, I mean, there's litigation over half the bills we filed, it seems like.
I can't hear. I'm sorry. Can you speak up into the mic?
I said, it's been widely reported that there would be litigation, but litigation ensues after just about, a lot of bills we filed, if, I don't think it's unconstitutional, but that's my opinion.
Why don't you think it's unconstitutional?
I said I don't think it's
I know I'm asking you why. Why do you walk me through why you don't
because there's not a
think
vested right that's being taken away. It's abolishing an office. I mean, would it be better to abolish the office after he's become an incumbent? I mean, I didn't file this personally against Mr. Duncan. I mean, I know that's been implied or stated outright, and I didn't really know who he was, honestly. But in any event, I don't think it's unconstitutional. But, I don't get to decide those things. Ultimately, the Supreme Court will, I guess.
But you'd agree that typically when we do abolish offices, we do them prospectively to be effective at the beginning or the end of the current term, before we've decided to have an election.
I don't know what we normally do, but that may occur more often than it does this particular way.
And if you indulge me a little bit, I know you filed other instruments that actually seek to abolish offices. Is that correct?
Correct.
Which probably is be coming before this committee. Is that fair to say?
I would think. I
Okay.
don't know, but I'm guessing yes.
So in those particular pieces of legislation where you attempt to abolish offices, is it fair to say that you're abolishing them before the state has conducted an election or advertised or allowed candidates to qualify for that particular election?
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right.
But in this case, the state has already conducted an election, right? The Secretary of State has certified the results, and she will issue a commission in which those winners have to sign the oath of office and submit it to her. And all they have to do is basically wait until the date the term starts to start discharging the duties under which the office for which they were elected. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would say that's correct, I think.
I just have some serious reservations that it undermines democracy with what you're trying to do, and fundamental fairness, that we have elections, the people spoke, and then what you're going to say, you know what, your voices don't matter, and we're going to do away with your office. And I'm not necessarily speaking to you, Senator Morris, but to my colleagues, that I try to live my life by the fact that I do unto others as I would want them to do unto me. And just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And the pendulum or the pendulum of politics swings back and forth. And I think with what you're doing is you're setting a very dangerous precedent that when the shoe's on the other foot, what's to stop it from happening to any one of us or you yourself? Because theoretically, next year we're up for re-election. And what happens if, you get reelected and the legislature convenes in between you getting elected and your election being certified, and then on the first Monday of January of 2028, the legislature says, oh, you know what, Senator Moore, it's your district, we're going to do away with that.
Well, they have to do a constitutional amendment to get rid of my district, but
in practicality, that could happen.
If that happened, because they consolidated, say we needed only 18 senators instead of 39, and we only needed 80 House members instead of 105. I guess theoretically, if it could be passed legally prior to taking office, then I guess I could.
But after an election, though, is what I'm saying is after an election.
Yeah, I would think that if that could be done legally before the election, before I took office in that hypothetical situation, it'd probably be a valid elimination of my district.
And the concern is the legal part, right? And that's the concern that what we're doing here is the question as to whether it's legal or not.
Well, whether it's legal or not is for the courts to decide. But you just asked for my opinion, which doesn't really count. It's the courts that count. But yes, that could happen. I'm not saying I would like it, but this is a democratic process. The clerks of court and us as legislators, we're set up by state law, and we're changing state law pursuant to a legal process that's democratic, which means majority rules. That's what democracy is.
So,
in essence,
when you and I were sworn in, we took an oath of office. Is that correct?
Yep.
And that was to support and defend the Constitution and laws of this state, but also the Constitution and laws of the United States of America. Is that correct?
Correct.
So don't you think we have an obligation to ensure that every action that we take is legal?
I think this is legal, but judicial opinions are just that. They're opinions. You never know exactly what opinion they're going to have on the law. So, but I think this is I think this law will be upheld constitutionally. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before, but I think it'll be constitutional.
Okay. I appreciate you answering my questions. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Landry.
Yes. Senator Morris, I think you testified several times here and elsewhere that you're not aware of any situation where an office was abolished before the winner take office. Is that still your understanding?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know. So I don't want to.
Yeah. I kind of did a little research on it in my other pro bono job, and I didn't find anything. But it might exist out there. And hopping on what Kyle said, on something like this that is a novel question, what I've been seeing is if this is sort of general, like if you were eliminating clerk offices or reducing offices everywhere, it seems fair. But because this is so specifically targeted at one person, do you think it's possible that this will be considered a violation of due process because it's arbitrary and it's being done in bad faith? I know you said we can't know what's going to happen, but does that sound like arguments that can be made here?
Yeah, those arguments can be made. I think the process, we've gone through due process. The bill was filed. People can weigh in on it. We're having committee hearings on both sides. I think it's going through the proper processes.
He's being targeted.
It's not specifically directed at a person. It's directed at abolishing an office that doesn't exist anywhere else in the state. And because they're not combined, it's the state's having to pick up the tab for the criminal district court.
But he is being targeted.
Which the state does not do for any other parish.
Correct. It's not as much money as everyone says, by the way, but he is being targeted. And I know you found yourself in the middle of dirty New Orleans politics. And I don't think you knew that before you got in, because you probably wouldn't have got in. But here's kind of the layout for everyone. I'd meant to give you all this information before because I don't think it's been brought up, but Calvin won office with 68% of the vote. He had the highest winning percentage of anyone. 38,000 people voted for him, 18,000 for the incumbent. And what's important here is I do not think we would be here if the incumbent won. He was supported by Congressman Carter, former Congressman Richmond, Mayor Moreno, most of the prior city council, some of my colleagues. I do not think that a congressman, former congressman, mayor would allow this office to be abolished before the incumbent took office. And I think it's important to at least recognize the situation here of why he would be targeted. And I don't think you knew all that before you brought this bill. I mean, did you?
I didn't know who had endorsed him, who had endorsed whom, whether the incumbent was endorsed. No, I didn't know any of those.
It's beyond
things.
endorsement, though.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, I'm sorry. We're both. There's a lot going on here. It's not so much endorsement on a piece of paper, but the support the incumbent received from politically powerful people was not President Calvin's campaign. But back to it. So y'all have both testified that there were no conversations with Orleans delegation members before the bills were filed. Have there been conversations since?
Yes, you and I had one earlier today.
Well, that was the first time we talked about it, actually. But other than me tracking you down this morning, have any House members been involved in any of these conversations?
No. You
I think
mean
the answer
from
is no.
Orleans Parish?
Correct.
No.
That's what I thought. If 256 in some of your other bills, you have 4 or 5, does sort of the same or similar thing as HB 911, why do we have multiple bills?
I don't know. I guess you could. I don't know. I mean, there's something to be said for having separate bills, because if one gets bogged down, the other one can keep going, and they do different things, or you can combine them if they're all the same subject matter, and then you have one big bill like Representative McMakin had. I don't know. There's more than one way to skin a cat around here.
Mm-hmm. You know, I'm a practicing lawyer in New Orleans. Candace is, Kyle is. We have a lot in here. I know a lot of. What?
I was.
You were? When was that?
Up until January 1st.
You were down in New Orleans? You didn't tell us?
I have more cases in Orleans than I've had in any other parish except for Jefferson, Caddo, and East Baton Rouge.
Well, it's kind of the point. All of us down
But
there.
it was in CDC, not criminal district court.
My defender friends, my plaintiff attorney friends. I mean, you could have asked us a few months ago for suggestions on what to do with these courts. I could have given you 100 suggestions, and they could have too. But none of us were consulted, and I think that's kind of the point here, is that this could have been done fairly, neutrally, in a positive way, but because we weren't, and because this is done before this person is taking office, that begs the question of the targeting, why it's done. And I have one last example, and I talked to all my colleagues yesterday, of the fact that the government overreach here is so dangerous. So Monroe has, I just looked it up, a mayor council. Is that right?
Yeah, yes.
Government, so you have a mayor and then a few council members. So say you run next time, there's a mayoral election, and you got some enemies out there, I'm sure you do. And before you take office, the legislature turns it into a police jury. Wouldn't you think that's not fair?
We have a police jury also, but.
You have a police jury and a council?
Yeah, because it's a separate government. We have city government, and then we have a parish government, which is police jury based. We don't have a parish president or anything.
But this is your city government, is the mayor council?
Yeah, and then my office is in the city of West Monroe, which has a separate city government. So we have several municipalities.
Okay, well, that's a bad example. I think Jeremy just told me Livonia has a mayor council, small city. government, and if the legislature was to turn it into a police jury or something like that when he ran, I mean, wouldn't you think that would be targeting him specifically? If we abolish that specific office and turn the government into something a little different, wouldn't that be targeting the person who won?
Like we're not talking about the clerk now, we're talking about a hypothetical mayor.
I'm just talking about an office that one person
guess-
occupies.
I guess it could be or could not be, or it might be a way to consolidate government. I mean, I'd probably like to see the city, all the cities consolidated into one parish government with a parish president like East Baton Rouge or maybe like Jefferson, I'm not sure. But
I mean, that wasn't my point, but
there
I
are a lot of
understand your answer.
complexities involved in doing that, but
I mean, the point here
I
is
guess the person that's in office would feel targeted.
the person's
but-
not in office yet because
Yeah,
we're abolishing it. That's the larger point here is we're doing something because powerful people don't like him. And I don't think you've met him. Have you met Calvin?
Yeah. I saw him in the hall a minute ago, and he gave me a warm handshake, and he called me, and I talked to him before the bill, and he told me, his concern, and I'm like, look, I understand, and he does seem like a very nice man, and I'm impressed with what he's been able to accomplish, in spite of a lot of adversarial situations, and but it's nothing. I can assure you, it's nothing personal on my part, and but I don't think we can just make policy based upon because we like a particular person or because we got to make the best policy possible. And in all this debate, I never hear anybody justify why there are two clerks of court in the parish when every other parish gets away with one and has more and therefore doesn't have to rely on the state to fund its court system to the same extent.
Well, a couple of things on that. I mean, we are creating policy here based on the politics of very powerful people, and I don't think this had anything to do with you personally, but we are creating policy on certain people's power. But as for the two clerk system, look, if we go through and combine those courts, and that may happen, that makes sense. But right now, you understand this, but a lot of people don't realize our courts are in two totally different buildings. You cannot walk from one to the other. One is a little more advanced technologically than the other one. The people who use them are very different. At the moment, it seems like we're just going to remove the one person, but they're still going to function as two entities for the time being. I mean, there's not really anything that's going to change. Maybe the HR is going to be combined or the admin's going to be combined, but those courts are going to be physically different.
Yeah, over time there'll be much more consolidation, but they do operate under different systems, but one's civil, one's criminal, and then the civil clerk has to operate multiple systems because they don't only do civil filings for lawsuits and whatnot, but they do, deeds and mortgages and that kind of thing. But over time, I think they would achieve a lot of economies of scale. But in addition, we're also merging the Judicial Expense Fund that will allow the civil filings to. It's in a separate bill, but it'll allow the civil side to, help pay for the criminal side.
I mean, this would make sense if we were combining the courts. It would make sense. But we're not actually combining the courts now, so we're going to have two systems ostensibly under one person overnight. But in regard to the money, I don't think there's an actual fiscal note on this. I think it's undetermined. The last one I saw, if that's right.
Well, this bill doesn't have much of a fiscal note, but the others have more of a.
Right. Well, my last question, I know there's a lot of legal arguments on this, constitutional arguments, but is this right?
Yes, I wouldn't bring the bill if I thought it was wrong.
Why? Why is this right?
Because as I've mentioned before, as a general rule, we want to operate government as efficiently as possible. So why are we operating things less efficiently by having 2 clerks of court instead of 1, like every other parish? I mean, to me, that just screams out common sense. Every other parish is getting along just fine and doesn't require. Now, we could have filed a bill to combine the courts. It was kind of like a little bit of a compromise gesture to not combine the courts. I can't remember if Representative Dixon's bill actually combines the courts.
I think it does.
And that was, by my way of understanding, a harsher bill and a harsher result. So I thought this was, for lack of a word, being a little more nicer. But combining the courts would be fine with me. But this is the route I chose to take at this point.
I mean, this is likely to cause more problems over the next few years than solve any, and probably not save any money, at least in the short term. It's probably going to cost money in the long term. The criminal court records, because of prior clerks, are a disaster. They do need to be fixed. Mr. Duncan ran specifically on that. He was supported by our district attorney, who found problems with the incumbent that were so bad they were worried about convictions being overturned for people who were convicted of very violent crimes, in addition to people who were wrongly convicted being unable to prove their case. I mean, Mr. Duncan was elected in part because of his story, but largely in part of that we wanted him. 68% of us wanted him to be in that office to help fix some of the prior mistakes, and to bring in someone who hasn't even been in that court, and he has practiced there for a very long time, seems like it's going to end up costing more time and money than we could possibly save in the short term. So I appreciate you answering the questions. Again, I know for you this isn't personal, but for everyone here, we know this is very personal to Calvin Duncan, and I think his constitutional arguments are very strong, and I think the arguments in favor of the 68% of voters who voted for him are very strong. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative.
Representative Newell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, afternoon, Senator Morris. You said you stopped practicing in Orleans Parish in January. Why you stopped? You retired because you knew you was bringing this bill?
Pretty much.
Oh, okay.
That had nothing to do with the bill. I sold my law firm.
Oh, okay. You didn't get a bad or a verdict that you didn't like, and you decided you're just going to tear up the whole system? That wasn't it? You just retired?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Let me ask you, when was Mr. Calvin Duncan elected?
Pretty recently, right?
Okay.
Can't remember the exact date, but I'm sure you know.
Yes, so at the end of last year, right? So
was it November? I don't know exact date, but.
Do you know when the election results were certified?
No.
And so you don't know if they were certified and if the results were sent to the governor pursuant to Louisiana law?
I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's been done. Mm-hmm. Representative Green mentioned that.
I think he asked you, but did you say whether or not the results were sent to the governor? You know,
that's a ministerial function that I'm sure if the law requires it, that Secretary Landry, I'm sure she did that. Mm-hmm. But you know.
Well, I don't. This poll is in the way, so I don't see anybody from her office. But I thought that you might have had that information, considering you bringing this bill. So, since you don't know if the information was sent, do you have an idea of when the oath of office will be had or sent to the elected officials, or their certification sent? You know how we get that little card in the mail and the certificate once we got elected? Do you know if Mr. Duncan received that yet, or when he shall receive that?
I don't.
Okay. And you also, during Rep. Green's questioning, you say that you don't believe that the litigation will be successful based upon this bill. Why don't you believe that the litigation will be successful if there have been constitutional challenges that have been presented to you several times over in committee, on the floor, and then again today? Why you don't think?
Well, after somebody takes office, we have a provision in the Constitution says that you cannot shorten a person's term in office. However, he's not in office. So if you take the Constitution using the plain meaning of the words in it, it's not applicable. Now, this office was set up by state government. State government can abolish it. I think it'd be better to do it now than wait. But that's my opinion.
And there's federally in that practice, a person does have a right to a position that they've been elected to, notwithstanding any legal disqualifications to that office. Like once they've gotten elected, you don't put them out of office unless there's some legal challenges to them being there, that they have to be removed for some reason. What is the reason that because we are essentially shortening his term because we're not even letting him sit. And I don't know if we're rushing this. I think we're rushing this because this is the only one of your bills that we had, and all your other bills have passed. And I think we're trying to get ahead of that May swearing in date. So I see this as a shortening of his time because we're not even allowing him to go forth with it. I don't understand what is it that we see that this man has done that's illegal that disqualifies him to sit in this office?
I'm not aware of anything.
And
it's not directed at him. It's directed at eliminating an office that shouldn't be needed.
Where these numbers that you're spewing, these was in place when the last clerk was elected. They was the last two clerks, the civil and the criminal court clerk. These numbers was basically the same then, but we didn't see a need to eliminate a seat then. But now we see a need to eliminate a seat from a man who was wrongly convicted, served his time, was exonerated, and then elected by over 60% of the people in New Orleans. So I see a wrong being done on two levels. You're taking something away from a person that worked and was fairly elected, and then you're taking away the voice from people who went out and voted in who they wanted to represent them. We are taking those rights from both of those people, and we're trampling on the democratic process you just mentioned about a majority being able to rule as to what different outcomes are. You don't see that?
I'm not sure. What's the question, though?
I asked you what was the legal disqualifications of Mr. Duncan.
I'm not aware of any legal disqualifications. It has nothing to do with him personally.
And I stated that the numbers that we have right now are the same back when the current criminal court clerk was elected and when the current civil district court clerk was elected. Why are we waiting till now to want to consolidate and remove people? And I asked if it was because we have a person who is in the position of Mr. Duncan with the past that he has.
No, that's not my motivation. And I've been a lawyer since 1984.
I ain't been a lawyer that long.
And you hadn't been alive that long, I know what you said.
I didn't say that.
That's okay.
You said a lawyer.
And my practice has been statewide for most of that time since then. And I've thought ever since I came to start coming to CDC from time to time that it was ridiculous that there were two clerks of court. I mean, it was ridiculous that there were 7 assessors in New Orleans, too, and those did get consolidated after Katrina. And these clerks' offices were almost consolidated after Katrina, but the bill got stalled in the Senate back in 2006 or something like that. But it was before my time here.
Yes, mine as well. But, yes, and I stated before, New Orleans is different. But in this case, New Orleans is different because the courts see vastly different types of cases. And it's a high volume of those types of cases that each court oversees. We want to look at these numbers that the book that we have in the Supreme Court book, but it has been multiple testimony and reports that have shown that there's a difference in how cases are reported. Even the Supreme Court justices have come and acknowledged the fact that cases, they don't have a uniform way that courts submit their case numbers and how things look. We had our criminal court judges whenever, that stated that they might have a case that has 15 defendants, each with 2 or 3 different charges, and that is one case in their court. Whereas in Jefferson Parish, that would be 15 different cases. So it looks as though other parishes are doing more work when essentially that's not the case. And we're sitting here and we're looking at combining these courts and not really diving deep into the weeds of what is being done, what is actually happening. Is that the fault of the judges? It is not. Is that the fault of the clerks? It is not. They're doing what they've been doing. What we should look at is asking the Supreme Court to give a uniform way of how the reportings should be done, instead of first just dismantling a system overnight, essentially, because this is going to go into effect at the signature of the governor. And now we don't even know who's going to be the clerk, or when they're going to come into office. What's going to happen to the employees? What's going to happen to the new system that civil district court just had? What's going to happen to the system that criminal court just implemented? What is going to happen? What's going to happen with the training of the staff that are in those 2 courts? Because if you're consolidating offices, are we now spending more money to train civil district to know what to do with criminal, and vice versa? What happens to the retirement of the people who are in those courts? What happens to those protections? Because we don't have a fiscal note. This is going to cost something. It's not going to be cost neutral. And I don't see anything that's being put in place for those protections, or even for any direction as to what the city is supposed to do with something that essentially is happening overnight. I have grave concerns with all of this. If this was something that we had been studying for the past 6 years, and we had numbers and we had suggestions from the Supreme Court, the Judicial Council, somebody to tell us, consolidate, here's how, and this is what you should see from a system, I would be more comfortable with that. But here, it seems as though, even though we say you're not targeting Mr. Duncan, I see this as just that. And it may not be your intent, but I see that as the intent from somebody. And I don't believe that that is right to him, and it's not fair to the voters in my parish. Because it's also, as Rep. Green says, the pendulum is going to come back around. And I would hate for it to be a tit-for-tat retaliatory thing every time leadership changes in this state, and have Democrats now poking into Republican districts saying you got too many people. We don't like how you're doing things over there. We're going to eliminate your sheriffs that you've elected. It's going to come back around, and we should not be setting this type of precedence. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Representative Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Morris, just a few questions for you. I know you're saying Orleans has had 2 clerks. How long have they had 2 clerks?
I don't know exactly, probably 100 years or more.
100 years or more, right?
I would guess, I don't know.
Okay, let's just go with that for the sake of argument. So they've had that over 100 years. Did you know that there was going to be an election in November of 25 for that position?
I don't remember. I don't know. I mean, yeah, there were elections in November. Did I know all the elections that were occurring then? Do I have them committed to memory? No.
I didn't actually have them committed to memory, but I mean, it was, you don't disagree that it was publicized that was going to be an election for the criminal clerk position in Orleans Parish in November.
I understand it was a valid legal election.
I'm not just saying that.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
saying it was duly noticed. I mean, you knew that well ahead of time. It's like we know next year that we have all the legislators are coming up. We don't know necessarily who's going to run, but we know that there's an election next year, right?
Right.
It's already scheduled. It's on the
Correct.
the schedule with the Secretary of State. And so my point is this was scheduled well in advance. I mean, why not file this bill last year prior to the election?
You know, I don't know. It didn't occur to me, but maybe it should have. I had my plate filled last year with other things, but and last year was a fiscal session, of course, and we were limited to 5 bills, non-fiscal bills.
Non-fiscal, you were, but I mean, we knew that this was coming. I guess my concern is, I mean, how do you not see this as a disenfranchisement of black voters?
I don't understand.
Well,
that.
Mr. Duncan was elected by 68% of the vote in a city that's majority African American. This is the will of the people. And what your bill attempts to do is usurp the will of the people. I mean, had you done this prior to an election and said you want to consolidate an office that you know has had, and I'm going to just, for the sake of argument, go with you that you say it has been in need of consolidation for over 100 years, you wait until after the election where a majority of African Americans have chosen a candidate of their choice to serve in that position, and now rather than let him serve, you want to unseat him. As you say, there wouldn't be an office to take because the office wouldn't exist. And you don't see that as a disenfranchisement of the will of the people?
Well, he's going to be. There's going to be a civil clerk.
I'm not talking about the civil clerk. I'm talking about the criminal clerk.
A combined clerk's office with 1 clerk instead of 2. She's African American, but I don't know what race has to do with it.
But the vote of the people was to elect him as the criminal clerk. 68% of the people decided that's who they wanted as their criminal clerk. And I'm trying to, just the mere fact that the civil clerk is African American doesn't have anything to do, has no basis or any relevance to the fact that you're disenfranchising the vote of the people. The will of the people as it relates to that office, that's what they asked for. And now you're trying to take that away from them. Do you not understand that?
I feel like your perspective is just different from mine. I feel like this is a way to consolidate it. You don't like the timing, but if I had to guess, if I'd filed this bill a year ago, you'd still be against it. You might use other pretexts to be against it, but the fact that it's this year, is unfortunate for Mr. Duncan. I'll concede that. And he seemed very nice, and but You know, we don't make policy around here for just one person, you know?
You're right. We shouldn't. So I mean, but it does seem like that's exactly what you're doing, and since we're talking about pretext, I think the whole thing of efficiency is pretextual because it doesn't seem like we're going to save the money. The figures I've seen, it says you'd only save $27,000, and that's speculative. So if we're talking about pretextual reasons as to why we bring bills or why we oppose them, I would make the argument that what you're doing is pretextual. You know, and I guess this, Senator, this reminds me so much, and I know you've probably heard this before, so I'm not telling you anything new, but this just reminds me of 1868 when John Willis Menard was elected by the people of Louisiana and was not seated by Congress. And then in 1873 and 1874, the people of Louisiana, mostly African American as well, voted for PBS Pinchback, our former governor, to serve in the U.S. Senate, and he was not seated as well, both of them because of race. And I'm sure people had their valid reasons for which they said. This brings me back to 1898, the 1898 Constitution here in Louisiana, where we went and dealt with, created this non-unanimous jury to uphold the supremacy of the white race. And so we've got all these things in this backdrop and all this context that we're dealing with. And I just wonder, how do you want history to remember you? Because we are going back in those same lines. You know, the Nairn case, because you're talking about democracy, but the truth of the matter is we're serving under, this legislature is serving under maps that have been deemed unconstitutional in the House and the Senate. The Fifth Circuit just this last year in the Nairn case talked about Senate factors. And when they talk, I mean, we talked about the 15th Amendment, which you're a lawyer, so you're very familiar with, that says the rights of citizens of the United States shall not be denied or abridged on the account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. But when they talked about Senate Factor 8, and you can go to page 50 of their opinion, and it says whether elected officials are responsive to the needs of the minority group. This is the court saying this. This is not me. They're saying 70% of the black survey respondents indicated that their elected officials do not care what they think. And you've got the same people, some of those same people in Orleans who voted for Calvin Duncan, and basically what you're saying is you don't care what they think because you want to eliminate the office that they have decided for the man that they want. Now, whether it was Calvin Duncan or anybody else, I would be opposing it. But I will tell you, if you had done it last year prior to the election, it wouldn't be because of denying the will of the people. What we're doing is this accelerated measure to try to get the governor to sign this before this man takes office. And if you don't find that to be shameful, I don't know where your moral compass is. Now, that's not a question in there, but I go back to the fact that how do you seem to say that this is somehow constitutional?
Because he hasn't taken office yet.
And the mere fact that the people have elected him and that you can get this done in an expedited manner to see if it gets to the governor's desk, which is we all know is going to be challenged, but you somehow deem that to be the proper way to go about this?
Yes.
Okay. Senator, I don't even know how to respond to that, but I'll come back with some other questions later. Thank you.
Representative Edmondson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Either one of you can answer this question, but I guess maybe Senator Morris, the 68% of the people that voted for this man in this election, how will they be notified? I mean, I'm not saying rumors don't get around, but will they be notified? And will they have an explanation of what is going on? Do you understand what I'm asking?
Not really. I mean, I think this is well publicized, so I think the newspapers will report on it.
So that'll really be the only way?
I would think that, and social media, and I think a lot of people know this is going on.
I'm just really concerned with the people's right to vote for who or what they want to vote for. And the fact that, I mean, this doesn't have anything to do with anything else to me but integrity. And if we're not going to have an explanation formally for people, I was wondering if y'all were going to plan to, send out something or let people know. You know what I'm saying?
Who's y'all? You talking like me personally send a
I'm talking
a
about
newsletter
whoever's
out?
going to handle, Secretary of State, whomever, I don't know. Had y'all thought about that?
I think it'll be rather obvious to people, but I'm not sure what you're asking, what you expect. But if we pass this bill, I mean, I'm not going to send out a notice any more than we send out notices of any other bill we pass. I mean, this is a.
But there's a difference in any other bill we
An office
pass.
established by statute, we can eliminate it by statute.
But to me, the difference is the fact that this gentleman won by 68% of the vote. And he's getting ready to be sworn in, and we're just now doing this. I mean, obviously he knows and everybody knows, but do you understand, out of respect for the people?
I understand his frustration.
No, I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about the people that voted for him.
And maybe their frustration. But, remember, this is a clerical position. He's supposed to receive papers and distribute papers. He's not a policymaker. He doesn't represent the people in the sense of representing them in a legislative body that makes policy. It's a ministerial function to receive papers in order to keep and minister in office.
I understand what you're saying. But anyway, that was my question right now. Thank you for answering it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, Senator Morris, I was remiss in not mentioning this, and I want to say it on the record, because I think that I appreciate the way that this committee has gone thus far. It's been very respectful. But as chair of the Democratic Caucus, I want to say publicly that, I've been made aware that you and your family have received threats. And I condemn those things that are happening. We should be able to debate bills, but maintain a certain level of respect and decorum. And look, we're going to disagree on this one. I don't like your bill. I'm being frank with you. I don't like it. I think it's dangerous. But I think that we owe it to ourselves and show the public that we, as legislators, can have respectful, civilized debates. With that, you mentioned earlier about the legality, that you believe your bill is legal. Can you tell me the current occupant of Criminal District Court, Mr. Lombard? Mm-hmm. What are the dates of his term in office, the current term? Do you know that?
I think it expires roughly at the end of this month, right? Or maybe in early May or something like that.
First Monday in May?
Maybe.
So it's a couple of weeks.
Right.
Do you know when he first took office?
I can't remember.
If I tell you first Monday in May in 2022, so that'll be May 2nd. Okay.
I believe you. I don't know.
And you stated earlier that, if I'm correct, and correct me if I'm wrong, is it constitutional to shorten the term of anyone who's currently in office?
No, not if they take office. You can't do that.
Can't do that, right?
Right.
Okay. So if your bill takes effect upon signature of the governor, does your bill do away with the clerk of Criminal District Court?
Yes.
So let's say if your bill, in 2 weeks maybe, right? Because let's just say your bill has no amendments, right? and it's on final passage on the floor of the House on Thursday. Goes through the process, it's probably the governor's desk the following Monday. That's before May 4th, and your bill's effective.
Right.
What is the impact of Mr. Lombard, who's a current elected clerk of Criminal District Court? Does he still have a job?
No.
He does not have a job.
It's taken over by the clerk of the current clerk of the CDC will be the clerk for the entire clerk's office.
But he was elected prior to May 2nd of 2022, right?
Yeah, I guess he could challenge it maybe if its bill is signed like a day before.
Well,
for 2 days, I don't know.
So Mr. Lombard was elected and issued a commission by the clerk of court, by the Secretary of State for a term. That term was to begin on May 2nd, 2022 and end on May 4th of 2026. And you just stated that it's unconstitutional to shorten someone's term. And if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're telling me is that if your bill, the way it's currently constructed, signed into law, he would be without an office.
If it's on May 3rd, I don't think he's lost a single time, So if the governor signs on May 3rd, I think that argument's taken away. But it's pretty de minimis, if it was true.
But the law says, right? The law defines the term of office for the clerk of court. And it says the clerk of court shall take office the first Monday after the election for the previous, right?
Right.
So that's already in law, and your bill doesn't affect that, does it?
No.
So effectively, you are shortening the term of Mr. Lombard, correct?
It depends on when the governor signs the bill. If he signs it May 3rd, I don't think his office is short. I don't think he's short.
No, sir. Already in current statute, right?
Right.
The term of office is already defined as the first Monday after the election, okay, for that office in May. So if your bill takes effect before that date, my question to you is, does Mr. Lombard, is he still the clerk of Criminal District Court?
I don't think so, but I'm not,
You don't think so?
Yeah.
And that's kind of problematic because you just stated earlier that it's unconstitutional to shorten someone's term.
Right. Well, we'll just have to see what happens in the courts, I guess.
I think I just teed up a good lawsuit for you, unfortunately,
Well,
for your bill.
lawyers got to work too.
Now, let me ask you this, okay? So your bill, does it create a new clerk position, essentially?
I don't know if it does or not. I mean, arguably it does, but it's kind of changing the name. But it's going to be there'll be one clerk. So instead, I don't know if that's really technically a new office. If you change the current civil district court clerk to the Orleans Parish court clerk, whether that creates a whole new office or not. But I don't.
So let me go. Right as we receive our commission, we receive a certificate from the Secretary of State clearly identifying the office that we are to hold, right? Is that correct?
I think so.
Right. And so let's just say that the Secretary of State, the winners of the election from last year's election, criminal and civil district court, are due to receive a certificate from the Secretary of State indicating that they have been duly elected and certified as the winners for the position of Clerk of Criminal District Court for the Parish of Orleans and Clerk of Civil District Court for the Parish of Orleans for a defined term. You are essentially creating a new position because they will no longer be the Clerk of Criminal or Civil District Court, but the Clerk of Orleans Parish. How does that comply with the law?
I think you're just talking semantics. The substance is there'll be one clerk. you can argue semantics, so whether it's a new position or it's whether she's taken over his position or, those are semantical differences. I don't know that have any legal significance. I could be wrong, but I don't think they do. The substance of it is that there'll be one clerk going forward.
Under current law, those two duties, those two offices are clearly defined and delineated. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're separate.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Representative. That's all the questions we have. We got a lot of opposition, so I'm going to start. We got a lot who want to testify, so it looks like we've got probably 25 people who want to testify. Representative Zarang, you want to say something?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of testimonies, a lot of cards. I was wondering if we can impose the 3-minute rule.
Is that a motion?
It's a motion, yes.
Is there any opposition? Opposition from Representative Jordan? Madam Secretary, can you call the roll? If you vote yes, you're voting for the 3-minute rule. If you're voting no, you're voting against the 3-minute rule. And according to Mason's rules, that only allows you one 3-minute chance. But out of the importance of this bill today, I, as the chairman, am going to make an exception and allow you 2 bites at the apple rather than 1, but just 2. So what I'm saying is you can have 2 3-minute bites at each speaker if you'd like.
Is that everyone? Is that everyone, Mr. Chairman?
That's everyone.
The witnesses as well?
Huh?
No.
Witnesses as
I mean,
well? Just us?
Just
all members of the committee, is that correct, Mr. Chairman?
all members of the committee. All right, first 3 coming up. Let's see.
Well, you got to vote.
Oh, and in opposition. Madam Secretary, will you call the roll? Let me turn you on. All right, you're on.
Representative Bro? Representative Chenevere?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Dickerson?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Edmonston?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Gallet?
Yes.
Yes. Oops. Representative Green?
No.
No. Representative Hebert?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Jordan? No. Representative Lacombe? Yes. Representative LaFleur? Representative Landry? No. Representative Mack?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Newell? Representative Ogeron? Representative Owen?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Ventrella? Representative Wiley?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Zarang? Yes. We have 10 yeas and 3 nays.
All right, 3-minute rule is in effect, and as I've said, I'm going to allow 2 bites at the apple on the 3-minute rule. All right, the first, I'm taking these cards as they are, so don't think I'm favoring one person over another. It's just how they were handed to me. The first one I have is Chelsea Richards Napoleon.
Wait, you got to go in a certain order.
What order?
You go, the proponents went first.
Yeah, the proponents went first,
Okay, then the opponents come next.
and that's who I'm calling the
Okay,
opponents.
that's a white card.
Oh, I see. She's got to go last then.
Yes.
All right. All right, so we,
Representative Jordan has a question.
yes. Wait, let me get you on. You on now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I know you're going just like in a random order, but I would ask, just out of respect to Mr. Duncan, and it does affect his position, if he wants to go first, that we would hear testimony from him first, if we could.
I will allow that for Mr. Duncan.
Thank you so much.
All right, but I want the table full each
No,
time.
that's fine. I'm just, because I don't know where he is in that card list.
All right, and I don't know either. I mean, they were just handed to me like
Right.
this. But I'd like to call Emily Ratner and
Representative Edmonston has a question.
and Nikki or Niziki Wiltz. if they would come to the table. Representative Edmondson has a question.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. So are there no cards in the affirmative?
I have no green cards.
No green cards?
No green
Okay,
cards.
thank you.
All right. Mr. Duncan?
Yes, thank you all. First of all, I would like to say that I've done nothing wrong in believing in democracy for all, even me, a person that spent a lot of time in prison. I still believe, and I will always believe, in democracy. Therefore, I hadn't done anything wrong. On November the 15th, 2025, Saturday, 59,748 citizens participated in our democracy by exercising one of the fundamental rights that we all have as United States and Louisiana citizens. On November the 15th, 25, as informed citizens, they cast their vote for who they wanted to be elected for the clerk of the Criminal District Court of Orleans. 38,681, that's 68.2% voted for me, Calvin Duncan. Why did I run? Why did I run for this office? While in prison for a crime I didn't commit, I used to write the clerk of court in New Orleans to try to get records, to try to find out what my lawyers was doing on my case. The state was seeking the death penalty. And guys was telling me that I was going to get the death penalty because they too had the death penalty. They was tried by the same judge, same prosecutor, same everything. And they told me that in order for the board being executed, I had to become a lawyer. I had to learn the law. And I did just that. I studied, I read law, and I tried to help other people. The problem that we was having was that we could not get our records. We could not demonstrate to the courts that we was unlawfully convicted. And some of my friends, some of the people that I was trying to help in prison, we just couldn't get the evidence in the case, in our cases. Then fast forward, I got out of prison through the hard work of the Innocent Project. God blessed me to get out of prison, 2011. And I went to the Criminal District Court on Tulane and Broad. And I couldn't get people records. So I vowed back then, and I understood why I couldn't get those records, because the people that was running that office did not understand how withholding our records from them was affecting our cases. So what I did, like every other citizen, I'm going to go get myself together. I'm going to go get my education, and I did just that. I went to Tulane. I got my paralegal certificate, associate degree, and a bachelor's degree in paralegal studies. And then I went off to law school. And in 2023, I received my JD from Lewis and Clark, and I came back home to continue to help people in prison get access to their records that they so severely need in order to demonstrate that they was unlawfully convicted in some cases. But back then I vowed that whenever this position became open, I was going to run. And when it became open, that Darren Lombard, when his time was up for the qualifying for that election, for that office, I qualified, and I started running, and I started educating people about the clerk of court, and I was elected. My request, with all due respect, was that the people that voted for me, they too believed in democracy. They believed that their votes was going to count. When I was going around in New Orleans, a lot of people was telling me, "Man, Calvin, your vote don't count. I respect what you're doing, but your vote don't count. That don't apply to you. It just don't apply to us." And I was telling them that they was wrong. I told them my story. I picked myself up. Even in prison, I educated myself. I came home and I saw an injustice, and I was trying to do something about it. And some of them went and registered to vote. And now this bill tells them, exactly what they had what they had believed before I even talked to them, that their vote don't count. With all due respect, I'm asking you all to don't let that be a reality. Don't let, it's hard getting people to participate in this democracy. And that's my request for you all. I done what I was supposed to do. And that is a message to every person. To me, in prison, I read books, and they said, this is the American dream. This is an American thing. You pull yourself up, no matter what the circumstances, you educate yourself, you be kind to people, you see an injustice, you do something about it. That's the American stuff that I believed in prison. And that's why I started off saying I have done nothing wrong in believing that in democracy, the people that took a chance on me, they said, look, I'm going to exercise my vote because I believe that you're going to do the right thing. You're going to make sure that what happened to you never happened to nobody else. I'm asking this committee, with all due respect, don't send an adverse message to those people that went out to cast the vote. Simple as that. And I appreciate you all for giving me this opportunity. But I'm more concerned about the people that went out to vote. And with all due respect, don't send a negative message to them that their votes did not count. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duncan. Nikki Wilkes, please state your name and who you represent.
My name is Ezekiel Wiltz, and I'm here representing the people as well as the students who I teach and serve. For 26 years, I served as an Orleans Parish certified school teacher, and I could say, as a social studies teacher, we had a lot of activities and projects. I followed the curriculum, and I could recall maybe over a decade ago, we did this whole activity, and it was about voting, right? And the children, we acted all out, and in that teaching, it was told to us that your vote does count and why you should show up to the polls, and we did the whole process. And in that process, the winner, who the students select, they ran for office, and they was able to actually participate, right? They served in a seat that they won. Now it seems as though I lied to those children. That this process, it doesn't matter. I also just recently spoke to some students in another class setting, and they shared with me, I don't see why Kelvin position would be taken if he ran for office, if he won, and if they had to take a seat, why would it be Kelvin's? Because if you're talking about combined in two offices, Kelvin is used to handling a whole lot of paperwork and a whole lot of cases, so even in this eyesight, he will be the candidate of choice, right? We should be fighting in a different way. Here, because I don't always have all the answers, not even as a school teacher, so I tried to Google and chat GPT because that's the way of the world right now. And it said it is a short answer, and I just did this sitting there, that they usually can't just take someone's seat after election, and when they do, it's because of corruption, maybe a resident requirement issue. It's because of ethnic violations. It's because that person wants to move or may just not want to run for office. They step down. Lawmakers change rules about leadership positions and maybe even for extreme cases, right? It also say if one had shown any sort of corruption, misconduct, or abuse of power. None of this happens to be Kelvin's case. I'm not sure why this is happening, but we all do understand what's happening now in the world today. Kelvin won fair and square. Calvin won, we organized, we were active, we engaged, and we showed up to the polls. We elected the candidate of our choice. You're not just disappointing the citizens and the people of New Orleans. I've been connecting with folks all over the world, and they too are really, really disappointed by what is taking place right now. And I'm hoping that we have a different outcome on today, one that won't just affect us in such a way whereby it'll make history again, because this what's happening now is just unheard of.
Well, thank you for your testimony. We do have some questions, but in order to give everyone a chance to speak today, when I bring three to the table, I'm going to have all three talk, and then questions could be asked of the three. So if y'all will keep your seats, if you can go ahead. Please state your name and who you represent.
Good afternoon. My name is Emily Faye Ratner. I represent myself as a voter, a volunteer for Calvin's campaign and transition team, and as a donor. And for each one of you who relies on donations, just think about the message you're sending to your own donors right now and the value of their donation. If you can run a successful campaign and win, and then that money went for no purpose at all. I'm an attorney in New Orleans. I practice in the courts y'all are impacting with these bills. I also volunteered hundreds of hours for Calvin's campaign and transition team. There's a few things you need to know about Calvin. He spent his entire life making history. He faced down the threat of the death penalty as a teen, was convicted of a crime he did not commit, was sentenced to die at what was then the most dangerous prison in America. He had every reason to turn into the monster the prosecution painted him as. Instead, he became an inspiration. He proved his own innocence, expanded the meaning of the Constitution at the U.S. Supreme Court multiple times. He gave thousands of people access to the courts and their records, and where the law required it, those people got their freedom. He may have more faith in our system of laws than anybody in this building. You should know that parents in Orleans Parish hold Calvin up as a role model for our children, for what it means to overcome the impossible with grace and with faith in what the laws of our democracy can do. When the people of New Orleans elected Calvin as our criminal district court clerk, we elected him because he educated us about the clerk's job. Nobody had ever done that before. He educated us about why he was qualified to do the work, and so we elected him in a landslide, as you've heard, 68 to 32%, widest margin of our entire election cycle. For the first time in living memory, somebody defeated an incumbent clerk in Orleans Parish. Maybe the first time in state history, we don't know. There is no public official in Orleans Parish with a greater mandate than Calvin Duncan. We, the people of Orleans Parish, know exactly why we elected Calvin. We also know exactly why the legislature is dead set on overturning our free and fair election. During the campaign, and I think it's important this gets said in this room, the Attorney General, Liz Murrill, sent Calvin a letter saying that if he did not stop accurately referring to himself as exonerated, he would face further action. Calvin didn't stop exercising his First Amendment right to tell the truth, and now this retaliatory bill is sailing through the legislature. SB 256 is a mirror, members. The bill tells you exactly who you are. If you believe in free and fair elections, you know this bill is wrong. If you believe in the right to free speech, you know the bill is wrong. If you believe in the rule of law, you know the bill is wrong. If you believe in honoring the will of the people, you know this bill is wrong. I believe in you. I believe in your moral compasses. I know you can't name another elected official that this has happened to. You know this bill is bad for democracy. You know it's bad for New Orleans. It's bad for our state. As Dr. King tells us, the time is always right to do what is right. You have the power to do it right now. The nation is watching you. Thank you.
We do have some questions, and like I say, I appreciate y'all all three staying up at the date. So, Representative Noel, you're first. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon. I appreciate all three of you all coming up here today. And to you, Clerk Duncan, I apologize for the fact that you have to be up here today defending a seat that you won. And I do appreciate you also pointing out the fact that the conversation that a lot of us have had during our elections of talking to young people, encouraging them to vote, and then they turn into us and say, why? because our votes don't matter. And I heard that more in the black community that I represent than in the white communities. With them, I had to tell them that they would miss out on an opportunity to vote if they only wanted to vote for a Republican because there was only Democrats on the ballot. But they still knew how important their vote was. And to see a man like yourself that looks like a lot of our kids, young black men, taking a bad situation and turning it to good, and not just good for yourself, but good for others, that is a story. That story has made national news, I'm sure you know, because I can't wait to see the movie. But you are encouraging them to do more than just to vote. You are encouraging young folks to see that no matter whether you hit a stumbling block of your own doing or of the system's doing, there is an opportunity to reinvent yourself. And I just want to commend you for doing just that. And again, I'm sorry that you have to be here to defend something that you rightfully earned through the votes of the people in Orleans Parish. And it's unfortunate that I don't think we're going to be successful here today, but I do think you're going to be successful downtown New Orleans.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Representative Landry?
Yes, I'm just going to call you Calvin like everyone does. We talked a lot about, and people mostly hear about how you're known and you were elected because of who you are and your history, but I think people in here don't understand you were also elected because of what you were going to do. You didn't just run for office, you ran for this office. And that's because of your long history of records and problems and history doing that while you were incarcerated and after. But what people don't understand is what came out during that election from the district attorney's office, that the incumbent lost the city $600,000 in a year due to procedural errors, jeopardized convictions by failing to maintain complete trial records, caused the illegal release of defendants due to carelessness with paperwork, endangered public safety by failing to send mandatory notifications of arrest warrants, delayed justice by failing to schedule first court appearances in the time outlined by law, and last August, records in a rape and murder case were thrown in a landfill. So for people here to understand, this is not just his story, but 68%, 36 points, said, we need this guy, we want this man to fix this office. So this happened, all of this happened. The mayor, the congressman, the former congressman, the city council, all these people could not save him in office. So my question is, do you agree that you are being targeted personally?
Yes, I am. I sincerely and honestly believe I'm being targeted. In 2021, I was totally exonerated. And when I filed, then I graduated from law school. Came back home, I filed for the compensation, and Attorney General Liz Morrow sent a message to me through Leon Canizera that if I continue to seek compensation, she was going to have me locked up.
Did you put that in writing?
And she said, I'm going to have you locked up. I'm going to charge you with perjury. However, if you dismiss your suit, if you don't, I'm going to have you charged, and I'm going to report you to the Bar Association so you don't get your bar license. But because I wanted to get my bar license, I decided to dismiss the suit with the hope that she would go away. And she resurfaced.
Yes.
That's the only reason why I dismissed my suit, because I had an assurance that she wasn't going to try to prevent me from getting licensed, something that I always wanted in my life. And so I said, well, I'm not going to pursue it. And now I try to pursue something greater to help other people never be in a situation that I am. And she surfaced again.
Well, I think it's atrocious this is happening to you. And I've talked to, I think, almost all my colleagues on the committee. The the precedence or the example this is setting, the government overreach with you, cannot be exaggerated, what this might mean for the rest of the country. So same question for you as a longtime lawyer and jailhouse lawyer and then someone who got a law degree. While we don't know what the legal outcome will happen because this is a novel question, is it right?
No, it's just totally wrong. It's just to put you, envision you being Calvin.
It wouldn't have happened to anyone in here.
No, indeed, it wouldn't have happened. 2 clerks in New Orleans been forever. And why eliminate the criminal district clerk? The court that affects people's liberty at a degree that's unbelievable. You lose your life there and you lose your liberty. But you eliminate that court. Why not the civil district court? Why not eliminate both of us? Why not just say, look, I don't like either one of you all. I'm going to eliminate it. What really gets to my spirit is, why eliminate Calvin?
All right, Representative Hebert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Duncan, you said the word targeted. I can't speak for targeting, at least not from my perspective. From my perspective, I'm going to say, I guess it really doesn't matter whether I believe the court should be combined or whether the clerk should be combined, just like every other parish throughout the state. I do think it's an, lack of a better word, define bad timing. But what I will have to say, from man to man here in this room, I commend you for what you've done with your life and the obstacles you've overcome. I would say that just about anyone in life who has to go through troubling times and we look back and we wonder why, I would say that probably God's still got a good plan for you and he'll come to light at some point. But from my perspective, I guess I just want to go on the record and say, I'm not targeting you. I'm merely looking at my perspective of the need for the combination of courts and the combination of the position. But boy, I do commend what you've done and where you've come from. So congratulations to you, son.
Thank you. And what I would like to just comment on that is, no, I'm not saying any one of you all are targeting me, but all of you all could assist and aid the targeter, the governor, the lieutenant of government, the attorney general. Those are the 2 people for whatever reason. And one day I hope I get to meet them so they'll see that the only thing I always want to do in my life is make sure what happened to me never happened to nobody else. So, no, I don't think that none of you all are targeting me. But if this bill go through this committee, then you all would just be, and I'm being frank with you, aiding the targeters. Thank you.
Thank y'all 3 for testifying. Let's call up the next, if y'all would vacate, let me call up the next 3. Former Representative Arthur Morrell is already here. There he is, my old buddy. Commissioner Devontae Lewis and Sarah Whittington. Welcome to the committee, and always good to see you, Art.
Same here, Rob.
Whichever one wants to talk first. Art, you want to start first? Or
I'll let the youngsters go first.
Good morning, Sarah Whittington with the ACLU of Louisiana, here in opposition to this bill as it is currently written. And I think right now, we don't have to justify what this bill is actually doing. There's no argument that the legislature can, in its authority, create and eliminate these positions. The why for it can be argued in the court of public opinion, social media, the news, wherever else. But the when and the how is, I think, what matters, and what this committee needs to actually spend time with and consider very carefully today. And that, I think, is just very common sense as well. So we do share with you, Rep. Edmonston, the concerns that we heard about not just the 38,000 voters that voted for Mr. Duncan, but in fact, the 56,000, almost 57,000 voters that voted in this election. And if this is in the name of efficiencies and costs, it doesn't have anything to do with the numbers of cases or the locations of the courts or anything further than that. It is just an acknowledgement that says that we don't want that to obfuscate what this bill is in fact doing in the consolidation of these offices. It's not about numbers, and it should not be about physical location. What this should be about, and what we need to raise today, is I think there is a very fair reading right now that in the consolidation of the offices, this bill is in fact silent on who the clerk will be. Our testimonies that from the bill author and its acceptances and assumptions that says this bill and the new clerk will be Ms. Napoleon as the civil district clerk and not in fact Mr. Duncan as the criminal district clerk. So I think I need to posit that fair reading and the democratic process and the elections that occurred in October and November of 2025 to say that the law requires an election for any legislatively created position. The consolidated clerk's offices will be a newly created position. There must be an election. As such, the intention and the timing of the bill and the speed to make this a single person's office in office before May 4th is going to be a problem. And if the assumption is that this will be Ms. Napoleon, I do not believe that she is the qualified elected candidate because her name was not on the ballot in October nor in November because she ran unopposed. So I do not believe she is in fact the person who is most qualified for the position. I do believe Mr. Duncan is the most qualified and elected position for the consolidated offices. And so if the intent is to eliminate the position, we have to name that this requires an election. And in this case, it would require a special election, and that special election must be held. So until a race is called, qualified candidates qualify, the election is conducted, the results are certified, and the winner takes the oath of office. I believe we are required to maintain those two offices, Ms. Napoleon as the civil district clerk, Mr. Duncan as the criminal district clerk, until there is an election for the consolidated offices. Thank you.
My friend Devontae, you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Devontae Lewis representing the 3rd District of Louisiana's Public Service Commission, which includes New Orleans. And members, I'm not here today to talk about the bill text. I'm going to talk about the morality of this bill. And when we think about what you are taking a vote on today, we often hear in this building that history was bad, slavery was bad, Jim Crow era was bad, and that it's over and we're moving on. But this bill is the defibrillator to the heart of Jim Crow. It is the IV to bringing us back to a time that you said we have moved on from. And when we think about what we're talking about here, it was facts and findings and efficiencies that were used to put in poll tax. It was facts and findings and efficiencies that were used to ensure that black men couldn't sit at a counter. And now it's facts, findings, and efficiencies to ensure a black man can't sit at the clerk's desk. And so when we think about history, we walk these halls and we think about what was those members thinking about in 1963 when they were denying rights. And now I'll ask you to think about this. When people come here 40 years from now, walking those halls, looking at your picture on that wall, are they going to remember the project you put in capital outlay? Are they going to remember the agency help? Are they going to see someone who aided, returning us to an era that so many said we had disappeared from? And so I want you to seriously think about this. I understand political pressure. I'm in office just like you, but I also know a conscience. And my great-grandmother taught me something that sticks with me every day. She says, Devontae, when you think about your life, ask yourself this question. Have you helped someone along the way? Did you do your best when you claim your rest? Then your living shall not be in vain. So the question I pose to you, will your service be in vain? When you look back on your service, was it the political pressure that brought you to this point? Or will it be your conscience of what is right and what is just That is what's before us in this bill. So we can talk about facts, we can talk about findings, we can talk about efficiencies, but we must talk about the elephant in the room, which is Jim Crow is alive in this building right now. And the question that you have when the motion is made and the objection is heard and the roll is called, will you call and answer it with your conscience, or will you answer it with your political expedience of this moment? That is what is in front of us today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Good friend, Art.
How you doing, Mr. Chairman?
You
My
were
name
here
is
when I
Arthur
came here
Morrell.
in 96.
Pardon?
You were here when I came here in 96.
Oh, you came in diapers. Your father and I were good friends, though. I want to say fellow legislators, I've been here many times. I spent 23 years here. I retired 20 years ago. And when I was elected clerk of Criminal District Court in 2006, it was right after Hurricane Katrina, and I had 12 people still in the office. The office was really messed up. When I left 16 years later, it was a fine-tuned machine. Everyone enjoyed it, and we had a good reputation. Why I retired? I don't know. My wife asked me the same thing. But anyway, we elected someone to be the clerk of Criminal District Court. Now, whether you like him or not, that's not the question. Can he do the job? One thing I don't know if it's been brought up before this committee is what it's going to cost. You pass this bill, you will own this office. You will own it. You will have to finance it. You will have to appropriate money to support it. You can't just say, I'm going to change from here to there and everything's going to follow it. That's not the way it goes. The clerk's budget every year, 99% of it is for personnel only. 1% is for the ancillary things, maintenance, space to rent, what have you, because there's no real way to tell how much it costs to run the criminal clerk's office. It was estimated one time when I was the clerk, a bill similar to this came up. And the estimate, if I remember correctly, was $10 million just to transfer it from one to the other, because the systems are totally different, totally different. And to merge them, it would cost a lot more. Plus, the state would be responsible for furnishing all the necessities for that office, providing space, because the space where the clerk's office is located right now belongs to the city, unless you want to rent it from the city. But when this legislation passed nearly a century ago, creating the criminal clerk of court, it mandated the city would foot the bill, the entire bill. The clerk gets zero from the state. It's 100% supported by the city of New Orleans. And the city is proud of that position because it deals with mainly just criminal activities. There's no way you can really merge them unless you appropriate in the capital outlay about $100 million to build a building to combine the two organizations. All that came up, I think, in my 5th year. And when they found out what it was going to cost, they said the state can't afford it. Because the city is not, I'm sorry, I'm going beyond the 3-minute rule. I appreciate it. Nice to see you again, Mr. Chairman.
We do need your name for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry. Arthur Anthony Morrell.
Thank you.
Retired 2006.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Let's call 3 more up. Manuel Castellan. And let me tell you, if you signed a red card today that you want to speak, you're going to get to speak today. I promise you that. Melody Davis and Michael Cahoon. Thank y'all for appearing before the committee. Y'all take your pick who wants to go first. After you.
Okay, my name is Melody Davis. I've never done anything like this before. I'm just a voter of Orleans Parish, a concerned citizen. About 2 years ago, I started helping a classmate who's wrongfully convicted and has been in Angola for 39 years. In that process, I've met him and some of his friends, and I started going to the clerk of court office to request records. Well, after getting the runaround for months, I got a letter that they couldn't find the records. Then I saw on TV how records were wound up in a landfill. Well, fortunately for me, I met Calvin Duncan. He's a man of integrity. I voted for Calvin. I bought the T-shirt, okay? I'm supposed to be at work. I came here just as a citizen to show my support, how much the people of New Orleans believe in Calvin Duncan. He promised to clean up this office that matters to us. We want wrongfully convicted people to be able to get their records. We want convicted people who are rightfully convicted to stay in prison. Calvin is the man to do this job. I spent my money on Calvin. I spent my money on his campaign. I've spent my time. I spent my efforts, and I feel like it's being wiped away, and I'm very angry about that. I think the senator from Monroe should mind his own parish. Let us mind Orleans Parish. We know what's best for our own parish. He doesn't live here. He doesn't know that. Calvin was elected on November 15th. It's a bunch of, I don't know what. That does not make sense to me. It's not fair. It's not fair to me as a citizen of Orleans Parish. A report came out in the Lens by a reporter named Katie Reckdahl that the current clerk of court sent the wrong numbers to the Supreme Court, which severely undercounted the number of cases that the judges are handling in Orleans Parish. So the data used to make this decision, if there really was data used to make this decision, is wrong. Through my advocacy for my classmate, Darren James, I have sat in courtrooms. I see what the judges are going through. All of this doesn't make sense. Those judges are overworked. They have a lot on their docket. Senator Morris said the clerk position is a paper pusher. It's not. Calvin is a person that would stand in the gap for justice. If we were going to do this, we should have had the opportunity to vote between the two candidates, between the civil court person and Calvin. And I personally wish Calvin could be our governor, but he only wants to be the clerk of court.
Thank you. Who's next?
Okay.
Please say your name and who you represent.
Hello, committee. My name is Michael Cahoon. I'm representing myself and as a voter in New Orleans and a friend of Calvin Duncan and a neighbor, live right down the street. And I just want to echo, I will try not to repeat what other people said, but I too noticed that Senator Morris said that this position wasn't a policy position, wasn't an important decision-making decision. It was ministerial. It involved, scanning records and taking records. And I think the reason the people of New Orleans elected Calvin Duncan is because he ran to say that these are people's lives. This is important. He spent years in prison, and people are spending years in prison now behind records. Access to records, making their case. This is such an important part of our process to be, I think, really carelessly advance such a drastic change in such a fashion. And I'll just say on the importance of the issue and the efficiency and the changing of the effective dates, we all know what this is. We can all see what this is about. The voters and the people of Louisiana aren't stupid. They're going to see what this is and why it's happening now and why it's happening to the person it's happening to. It's a message that people like Calvin don't belong where power is. And that's exactly the message that was said during the campaign, and that's exactly the message that the people of New Orleans rejected overwhelmingly. And just, I think one of the other speakers talked about the history. You know, like a lot of people in this country and this state and this building, my ancestors did really bad things. Not all of them. Some of them did good things, but some of them did really bad things. And what do we always hear growing up from the older folks? Well, it was a different time. That wouldn't happen now. If we were back then, we wouldn't let it happen. It was a different time back then. And with this, you know, is it a different time? And I'll just end with one thing, because I do have to correct Calvin on one thing that he said. And it's the only thing he said today that I disagreed with him on. And he said that the voters in New Orleans took a chance on him. No chance at all. No, sir. And easiest vote of my life. Thank you.
Sir, please give your name and who you represent.
My name is Manuel Castillon. Here representing myself, a voter in New Orleans, as well as my household, my brother who's with me, and my mom. She couldn't make it today. This is my first time also doing something like this. I just want to say that as a black person from New Orleans, this feels like y'all are stripping our power away. I think everybody has talked about the history of like just this country, race dynamics, and this is an injustice. This is an injustice to everybody who voted for Mr. Duncan. This feels wrong. I'm Gen Z. I was born in 1997, so you know I've learned everything in the state about democracy, about how this is supposed to work, how voting works, and I preach so much to everybody in my generation, to my family, about how much voting matters, and y'all are showing us that maybe our votes don't matter. And that's sad. Like, nobody should be saying that in the United States of America. Not me, not anybody sitting in this room. And what's happening to Mr. Duncan is wrong. What's happening to the voters is wrong. This is wrong. Please do right by us. Please. We're asking y'all. People are sitting here pouring out how they feel. I've never done anything like this in my life. I didn't come prepared to speak today, but I felt compelled to because Mr. Duncan's story was compelling. I'm somebody who came from a different upbringing from him, but look what he did. He made something impossible possible, something that most people wouldn't do. He did it. And I'm inspired by him. I agree with the gentleman to my right that this was the easiest vote I've ever made. I've been voting for 10 years now, and without a doubt, once I heard Mr. Duncan's story, on top of what he would do in our city and for our city, I knew I would vote for him without a doubt. Y'all saw 68% of the voters voted for this candidate. This is who we want. This isn't a position that just we don't care about. We care about all the positions. Everybody's positions matter, and this one matters, and we don't want this combined. We need what we voted for and who we voted for to be in that position. And this is just wrong. So please do right by us. Listen to the voters. The voters are here telling y'all what we want. This is our city. I think anybody from the city of New Orleans who grew up in New Orleans, who lives in New Orleans, we feel like it's New Orleans against the world. We feel like it's New Orleans against Louisiana. And as much as everybody in the state wants to use New Orleans, you know, for our attractions and what we bring to the state, but nobody ever wants to listen to the people that actually live in this place, the people that make New Orleans go. Do right by us, please. That's all we're asking. We're just asking to please seat this man who has worked his entire life for this moment. Somebody who's not even here for himself. He's here for other people who may have a story similar to his. Y'all don't understand that we all may be connected to someone who is going through something or has a story like Mr. Duncan's that is just looking, you know, for somebody to help him. And we need somebody like him. That's why we voted for him. So please do the right thing by us. Do the right thing by the voters.
All right, thank y'all. I appreciate y'all coming today, especially first-timers. I know it's a little daunting, but appreciate it. Next one's up, Edward Tarpley, Nick Alvarez, and Robin Gillian. I think this is working pretty good, getting three at a time up. Y'all, all I ask is you first give your name and who you're representing. Y'all got the floor.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members. My name is Nick Alvarez, and I'm a resident of New Orleans and a Democratic candidate for the United States Senate. I come before you today, though, as a concerned constituent, urging you to reject Senate Bill 256, a bill that undermines democracy here in Louisiana. I've worked on criminal justice reform efforts with Calvin Duncan since 2011, the year of his release from prison. Mr. Chairman, as you know, Calvin was wrongfully convicted because prosecutors withheld evidence. He availed himself of our legal system to win back his freedom. Next, he availed himself of our democratic system to bring hard-won perspectives to elected office, to stop the corruption that robbed him of 28 and a half years of freedom. And I want everyone just to take a moment to just think about the unfathomable loss of freedom for those 28 years. If you haven't already, I encourage you to read Calvin's book. This fall, my family and I spent weekends working to get out the vote in Calvin's historic election as clerk of court. This effort, as you've heard, was truly democracy at its best. Now, this body seeks to override the will of the voters of New Orleans. And in doing so, it would empower the same system that allowed for a wrongful conviction and wrongful imprisonment to stay in control instead of the people of Louisiana. As a New Orleanian, as a Louisianan, and as a father of 3 boys who had a formative experience of civic engagement during this campaign, I implore you to reject this bill. Throughout this country, there are politicians that deny the results of elections and seek to overturn the will of voters. We saw election deniers become violent in Washington, D.C. after the 2020 election. This bill would weaken our democracy and nullify the will of voters. Finally, during the campaign, my 9-year-old son, Eli, wrote a whole speech about Calvin's story, outlining the violation of his civil rights and how Mr. Calvin inspired him to serve his community. Mr. Chairman and committee, if the kids know that this is wrong, the adults in the room need to take notice and reject this threat to democracy. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead. Please state your name and who you represent.
Okay. Are we allowed to have images while we testify?
It would have had to come to us ahead of time.
Okay. Well, this is what I was going to show, but that's okay. My name is Robin Guillen. I am a mother, an activist, and a doctoral candidate studying the impacts of incarceration here in Louisiana. I have words that I want to share with you today, but I also wanted to share an image here, since what we're discussing, perspectives, as Senator Hebert mentioned, this is my perspective of what's happening here today. I'll be honest with you, I've written many drafts of what to say, and I'm still at a loss for words about how this is even up for debate. This bill is not an abstract policy change. It's part of a wider action by Senator Morris and like-minded senators that voted in support of his bills. It is, in Morris's own words, quote, what the governor wants. Let's be clear about what SB 256 seeks to do and what it does not seek to do. It seeks to knowingly impede the court and clerk systems, to delay justice and efficiency to New Orleanians. It seeks to dismantle a system only to then ask later, why can't New Orleans just get their act together? But it's also deeply personal to my friend Calvin, because what it seeks to do is to ensure that a black man, a formerly incarcerated man, who will do the will of the people, does not come to power. So let's call this bill what it is, strange fruit, not low-hanging fruit. There's a long and painful history in this country of black lives being treated as expendable, of being reduced in the most chilling sense to what Billie Holiday once sang about as strange fruit hanging from southern trees. That imagery, and ones like the one I have here, are not just history, they are a warning a warning about what happens when systems strip people of their humanity, their dignity, and their right to fully participate in society. A warning of what it means to see a man who has faced more adversity and yet accomplished more than I would say likely anyone else in this room, to have what he has worked his whole life for simply snatched away. And so it's deeply troubling that this bill, proposed by Senator Morris, appears to target a man like Calvin Duncan at the very moment he is poised to serve. Because when we talk about, quote, low-hanging fruit, we should be honest about what that means, choosing the easiest target rather than doing what is right. Mr. Duncan should not be made into political low-hanging fruit, not after serving 27 years of wrongful incarceration, not after dedicating his life to helping others navigate the very system that failed him, not now and not ever. I urge you to come join the right side of history, if for nothing else than your legacy. In doing so, you can affirm that Louisiana is capable of learning from its past rather than repeating it.
Thank you. Mr. Tarpley?
Representative Carter, my name's Ed Tarpley. I'm the former district attorney of Grant Parish. I've practiced law in this state for 45 years. In 2018, I was privileged to be one of the leaders in the movement to restore the unanimous jury verdict law in Louisiana. We were successful in the legislature in getting that bill through. J.P. Morrell was the author. I didn't even know J.P. until I showed up to testify at the committee. But it got through by God's grace and mercy. And then the people of the state voted 64% to restore the unanimous jury verdict law in Louisiana. That's one of the greatest things I've ever had a privilege to be a part of. And I want you to know that I'm here today because of my friendship with a man named Calvin Duncan. I met Calvin during the campaign to restore the unanimous jury verdict. And you know, after hearing his story, he had every right to be angry and hurt and bitter. But you know, I didn't find that. I found a man that was optimistic and cheerful and hopeful for the future. And so what this bill is all about in my mind is about the politics of personal destruction. And that's why I think it's a stain on this governor and on this Republican-controlled legislature. I'm a Republican. I was elected as a Republican. I'm a member of the Republican State Central Committee. And let me tell you what, this bill doesn't represent our commitment to the Constitution and preserving liberty in our country. It is everything against that. I can tell you this much, that I don't know who's behind this bill. I really don't. I don't think Jay Morris is really behind it. I think Jay Morris is doing this because somebody asked him to. I'm ashamed of Jay Morris because he's my state senator, and I'm opposed to this bill. But whoever came up with this has a sick and twisted mind, and I'll tell you why. Because this is about destroying the career of somebody before it even gets started. We ought to celebrate what Calvin Duncan has done in his life. And instead, this legislature is being asked to destroy a political career that's just been started. So, ladies and gentlemen, you know, it's not your fault because you didn't bring the bill. But whoever came up with this bill, whether it was Governor Landry or Attorney General Murrell or somebody else, I don't know who. But let me tell you what, they ought to be in this committee today telling us why they want Calvin Duncan not to take his office. You know, the Bible has a lot to say about injustice. God hates injustice. Proverbs 11:1 says, "The Lord detests dishonest scales, but accurate weights find favor with him." And let me tell you, that's what this is about. This is about dishonest scales, because this is dishonest. So I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, and particularly Republicans, don't put a stain on this legislature. Don't put a stain on this state. And don't put a stain on the Republican Party. We're better than this. Let's do the right thing and vote no on this bill.
Will this panel take a question?
I'll take a question from anybody.
Representative Owens?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one quick question for Mr. Tarpley.
Yes, sir, Representative
You heard what the lady from the ACLU said about the bill and the functions of law possibly triggering another election. Did you hear that?
Yes, I did hear that. I think there's serious problems with this legislation. I think it's being rushed through without accurate regard for the consequences. Former clerk Arthur Morrell said this was a recipe for chaos. It is a recipe for chaos. We don't know how this is going to work out. Members of this committee, there has not even been a fiscal note generated for this legislation. It is unheard of that we would do something like this, a monumental change like this, to change a system in New Orleans that's existed for 100 years. We would do this without a fiscal note. I can't understand and can't believe this is being done. So,
My
yes.
curiosity was driven as to whether or not that there would be obscurity that's created as to, okay, who's supposed to be there, because we're taking two and we're getting rid of one.
I think there absolutely will be constitutional issues. There will be practical issues about how you implement this. Okay. This is going to wind up in court without a question.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
That's it. I sure do thank y'all for coming testify today. Always good to see you, Mr. Tarpley.
Always good to see you, Representative Carter. Thank you for your courtesy, and to the committee also.
All right, next up, we got my good friend, Mr. Chico Yancey, Lydia Hopewell, and Lindsay Garcia. I have to apologize to Mr. Yancey. Last time we had a meeting, I almost left him out when he wanted to talk, but we got him called in time.
We're used to being left out. Ladies first.
Please state your name and who you represent.
I'll go first. Hello, my name is Lydia Hopewell, and I'm a resident of Orleans Parish. I'm representing myself as a voter of Orleans Parish, as a friend of Calvin Duncan, but also as a deeply disturbed constituent testifying in opposition of this bill. First, I want to thank you all for taking the time to listen to everybody's testimony, and Mr. Chairman, you for allowing the additional time for the people to be able to speak on this issue. I think that's really important, and I thank you for doing that. I'm a previous poll commissioner, a committed voter since my first presidential campaign I could vote in, and civic engagement is my jam, y'all. I volunteered for Calvin's campaign. I volunteered for Rep. Landry's campaign as well, and our right to vote and right to choose officials who will represent us and our needs and interests best is the foundation of this country. And if we don't have that, what even are we? It was implied earlier that this role is not a clerical one and therefore not really representative of constituents like you all here are as legislators. But if that's really true, why is this administrative role an elected one? Why were we as New Orleanians allowed to do our research on potential candidates, engage in the democratic process by asking questions of potential candidates, and then go into the polls and make our selection? This role is representative of the people because the people are the ones who voted him into this office. That's the point of it. I've been in the audience since this hearing began, and I want to reflect on something that Senator Morris said. He said we're changing state law through a democratic process by majority wins. But where is the democratic process or the majority in this issue? There were no green cards submitted in support of this bill, and that should speak volumes to everyone here. You've heard back-to-back testimony from New Orleans delegates and residents that are actively saying we weren't consulted and we don't want this. And as representatives of the Louisiana people, it's your job to listen and heed our testimony. This bill is personal to Calvin, but even more, it's personal to us, the voters. By voting for this bill, you're doing so without the support of any Louisianans in this room, and that you say you represent. And if that's the case, my question to you is, what are you really representing here? Please vote against SB 256 and show the people that you believe in what they stand for. Thank you.
All right.
My name is Lindsay Garcia, and my energy is much different, but I do hearken what Lydia just said. Again, my name is Lindsay Garcia, and I'm here before you as a daughter of Louisiana, mother of two, teacher of thousands, and an advocate to millions, a recent graduate of the Southern University Law Center, and a current candidate for Congress, and a proud friend of Calvin Duncan. You may not know me today, but I hope by the time that I'm finished, you will remember how much of a problem I can become for each and every one of you. I prayed on what I would say in this moment. I told Calvin I would. I asked for calm and I asked for grace. But the truth is, I have sat here and watched these types of bodies, this current Louisiana legislature, repeatedly. You have ignored the voices of lawyers, judges, advocates like myself and Mr. Duncan himself, and I've watched you ignore the will of tens of thousands of voters in New Orleans. People far more patient than me, people with far more measurement than myself, and I need you to understand this. If I am the one standing here now, it is because every other reasonable voice has already been dismissed. So I will ask once and respectfully for your full attention, because I'm not here just as an individual. I am here as a reflection of what Senator Morris has created for you. You all are being seen. We all are going to see you and your actions and what you all are going to do today. We saw a man who was wrongfully convicted, who lost nearly 30 years of his life, who used the law, your law, to prove his innocence, and instead of respecting that outcome, you are enabling someone to try to eliminate the very office he was elected to hold. Do not mistake what this looks like, because it does not look like efficiency, it looks like the retaliation that it is. And whether you say that out loud or not, you know exactly how it is going to be understood, and what is understood shouldn't need to be explained, but yet here I am doing it. Now I'm going to shift, because part of this message isn't even for any of you here. It's for the people in Louisiana who are going to be watching this message. Do not be discouraged. Do not lose hope. Do not allow them to convince yourself that your voice does not matter, because the very existence of this legislation here before you proved that it does, because you spoke, and now they are trying to silence you. So I need you to fight like everything that you love is on the line, and fight like the tree of liberty is on fire, because I guarantee you it very much is. To this committee and to every member of the legislature, hear me clearly. You will do what you do here regardless. It's what I've seen time and time again, but I came to remind you all that every single seat in this body is up for re-election in 2020, every single one. And I am coming, but I am not coming alone. I will come with the people you ignore. I will come with the voters you dismiss. I am coming with the consequences you thought would never reach you. So I came here to tell you that I am the consequence of a generation and the reckoning that you will create here today. Because what you are doing here today is bigger than one man, and it is a message that even when someone proves their innocence, even when they follow the law, even when they win at the ballot box, you will still rewrite the rules if you do not like the outcome. So understand it clearly. You're not just voting on the bill. You're defining yourself for history and posterity, and the world will be watching. And I beg of you not to make me to come here again, because next time I won't be asking politely. I will come back with the same righteous indignation that has always risen when power like this forgets who it serves. And I will use every avenue at my disposal to flip all of your seats like Jesus flipped the tables at the temple, and that is a promise, not a threat.
Mr. Chico.
I don't know how you follow that.
I love you, Chico. My bad. The moment called for it, Chico. Apologies.
You know, I had to pray about this. You know, I know Calvin personally. We were in prison together. I spent 20 years in Angola. And Calvin was always respected, trying to help other folks. And I remember when he called me and told me that he actually qualified. I was I didn't know whether I wanted to drink some Kool-Aid or just say, man, thank you, Lord. Because that was his dream years ago. And listen to Ed Tarpley that I met when we changed, Professor Bell, Norris Henderson, Calvin, and myself when we initially met and knew what we had to do to face the injustices of the state of Louisiana, of the non-unanimous jury. And then a while ago when the chairman said, my good friend, I need your friendship now. I'm going to see how your vote be. And they listened to Ed. Ed almost wanted to make me a Republican. But when I look at the person that's bringing this bill, I know I don't want to be a Republican. But you know, as I look in your eyes and some of these committee members, I'll be 81 this year. I've seen this damn movie before, and it ain't a pretty movie. I remember my grandfather saying, the devil will use anyone. And he also said there's more than one way to skin a Negro. And I used to wonder what that meant. So I'm looking at the skinning going on right now. And here we are in 2026. And because of the top officials, because I don't know who's doing this, whether it's the top official, whether it's the legal official, or whoever. But when I heard the other week that they would do anything to keep Calvin out of office over their dead body, I was like, wow. But we need to understand in our community, we understand what it means to fight and to be heard. Voting is not just a routine act. It's a hard-earned right shaped by history, struggle, and persistence. When a bill like Senate Bill 256 threatens to override that process, it sends a message that our participation can be disregarded, even though the ballots have been counted. This bill raises serious concerns and demands our attention to make sure that we do the right thing. And when I look at Representative Wiley there, a former sheriff, him and I have had some serious conversations about reentry and what it means to get your life right and do the right thing. And I look at Representative Dickerson. I remember you when you came to Angola years ago doing a story. And now you are seeing the results of people doing the right thing. And I know that some people have gotten their marching orders, have been told how to vote. But today you can make history. You can make history and do the right thing. My grandfather always said there's never a wrong time to do the right thing. I messed up years ago, and I've been out of prison now 23 years, and I do what I'm supposed to do, follow the rules. But if you deny,
Wrap it up. You've run out of time.
I'm going to wrap it up. But it's very important to make sure that people understand this is wrong, this is personal, and it has no place in today's political world. Calvin is my friend, and let's let him serve his next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, panel, for showing up. Let's get our next three up. Santry Spoke, Sarah Gonzalzo, and James Samuels. All right, y'all can take your pick who goes first, but I do need you to give your name and who you represent.
Ladies first.
Hello, my name is Sarah Gonzalo, and I'm here representing myself. I became a U.S. citizen about 2 years ago. And after my swearing ceremony, after becoming a citizen, I stepped out of the room, and the voice of the experience vote was there to greet me and register me to vote. And for some reason, I got really emotional when I registered to vote. And I thought about my grandfather who fought in the Spanish Civil War and was sent to a work camp, and my father who was persecuted during a 40-year fascist regime in Spain. And growing up, my family, who had been targeted by fascists, always told me the importance of democracy. Voting for Calvin Duncan was one of the first votes that I've ever taken as a U.S. citizen. Calvin Duncan has been a teacher to me. He taught me everything about non-unanimous juries. He also told me that impossible is nothing. And I think about how many times God has been mentioned in this room. And I think about the lessons of my grandfather, who was in a work camp fighting for a republic, fighting for democracy. I think about my father, who was persecuted so that I someday would have the right to vote. And for those who mention God, I have a proposition for you. Instead of being sure that God has a good plan for Calvin, and of course he does, maybe he's waiting for y'all to be that vehicle today. You don't have to leave it up to God. Today, you can do the right thing. I wish I had the power that y'all have today. All I have is my vote. And if you vote for this bill, you're taking that away from me too. 2 years I've been able to vote in this country, and already one of my few votes is going to be taken away from me. I have never witnessed anything so chilling in my life. And I ask that you have the courage of the convictions that led you to run for office and vote no on this bill.
Thank you. Please state your name and who you represent.
This is my first time as well, but my name is Santrisa Pope, and I am representing myself as a voter from Orleans Parish, and also on behalf of the NAACP Louisiana State Conference and also the New Orleans branch. We write in strong and unequivocal opposition to SB 256, and we urge this committee to reject this legislation. For more than a century, the NAACP has fought to secure and protect the fundamental right of every person to participate fully and freely in our democracy. That right has never been given without struggle, and it has too often been undermined by policies that, whether by design or effect, limit access and silence voices. SB 256 fits within that pattern, and we cannot support it. This legislation threatens to undermine the will of the people by creating barriers that determine who can participate and whose voices are diminished. When participation is restricted, representation is distorted. When access is limited, democracy itself is weakened. These are not theoretical concerns, they are realities that have repeatedly fallen hardest on communities already facing barriers to full civic participation. The issue before this committee is not simply whether SB 256 can be enacted, but whether it meets the standard of fairness required under our constitutional principles. Equal protection demands more than neutrality in language. It requires that laws do not result in unequal access or unequitable outcomes. Policies that disproportionately burden participation, even indirectly, raises serious constitutional and civil rights concerns. SB 256 fails to meet that standard. Each member of this community serves because voters were able to participate freely and have their voices counted. That authority is grounded in full and fair access to this democratic process, and it carries a responsibility to protect it. The people you represent expect their voices to matter and their access to remain intact. This is the defining moment. This decision made here will signal whether this body is committed to protecting democratic participation or willing to advance measures that weaken it. The impact of that decision will be confined to this room. It will be felt by communities across Louisiana and reflected in how your leadership is judged. And I also want to say to the author of this bill, he may not remember because that seems to be an issue, but I asked him one time, is there anything that would change his mind? And he said it's his own logic. I simply ask that he stops writing bills that are based upon his own logic, but that he has conversations with the voters of Orleans Parish, with the voters of his own community, because whatever happens here today, if this bill passes, then please understand, we keep saying that Calvin Duncan is not targeted, but you have targeted me, and you have targeted the voters of New Orleans, and you have also targeted the voters of this great state of Louisiana, which includes you as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you please give your name and who you represent?
afternoon, panel. My name is James Samuels. I'm representing James Samuels. I recently met Calvin, but I want to give you a little bit about me and when I met him. Originally from Alabama, spent many years in penitentiary myself. Recently came here in 2006. Learned that I could vote. Meant a lot to me. And when I met Calvin while he was campaigning, he came to my church, and I'm the overseer for prison ministry at my church. And I'd never seen someone who's trying to help someone in a situation like this, and the people are fighting him so hard. I go to the prison, and I hear the men talking about different laws that has been written in this state. I come from a state that's probably just as bad as this state. And now to see African-American men come and be honored like this man, trying to help other people, and like Brother Chico said earlier, he's 81. So we've seen some things. I'll be 69 this year. And I was so excited about voting. I'm no longer in Orleans Parish, but I do stay at Marrero. And I do see this man of God, him, Calvin, come to my church and inspire what we have called the wise men. We have wise men. He inspires us that we can be able to pass it on to other African-American youth, and not just in the prison system, but throughout the communities over there. Our church, my church is in Orleans Parish, and we are excited about what he's doing and what he's going to do. This is not the end, no matter what you think and what y'all mind's already been made up. How you going to set this? How you going to set this bill off? But Calvin's work is just beginning. His work just began. I appreciate you guys listening to me and giving me the chance to speak on behalf of Calvin Duncan. He's he still got joy. Look at the smile on his face. This guy, he loves what he's doing, and he's going to go in a lot of high places doing what he's doing to be able to help people, especially African Americans. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Yes.
Get a new panel here. Shawan Bernard, Sherry Thomas, and Greta Anderson. And we've got one more red card left after that to testify, so we're getting close to the end. Please give your name and who you represent.
All right, I guess I'll start. I'm Shawan Bernard, and I'm representing the Lower Ninth Ward Voters Coalition, and it's an organization where I go out in the community, and for the last 10 years, I've been registering voters to engage in the voting process. I also hold public forums and civic engagement, and we invited Mr. Duncan to come and share with us. So we are vastly invested in the decision that you're making. I also represent the NAACP. I serve as the Legal Redress Committee Chair for the New Orleans branch. So my message to you, and some of these points have been made, but I wanted to make sure that I took off from work to do some of the work that I do work in the, I'm an attorney. I practice law in New Orleans in particular, and I engage with civil court 90% of my time, and every once in a while I go over to criminal court. So I'm truly invested in all of the bills that Senator Morris has put forth before the panel, but in particular this one today. So I come before you today not only as a constituent, but as a voter who believes deeply in the rule of law and the integrity of our democracy. Each of you have taken an oath under the Constitution, an oath to support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Louisiana, to faithfully and impartially discharge your duties of office. The oath is not ceremonial. It is a binding commitment that must guide every vote that you take. And today's Senate Bill 256 puts that oath to a test. The bill is being described as restructuring or consolidation, but we should be clear about what it actually does. It changes the outcome of a completed election. It prevents a duly elected individual from taking office. It replaces the will of the voters with the appointment of a position that was never presented to nor approved by the people. It is not restructuring. It is overriding an election. And that raises serious constitutional concerns. Under Louisiana Constitution, in particular Article 5, Section 28, the office of the clerk of court is constitutionally required to be selected or elected. Let me change that, elected in each parish. While Orleans Parish has historically had a separate civil clerk of court and a criminal clerk of court office, those offices in the Constitution were continued, and it gave you some authority to make some statutory changes, not redesigned as a mechanism to negate elections or convert an elected office into an appointed one, because I believe Representative Owens may have said, who's going to get that position? Well, we didn't vote on that position, so I'm not quite sure how you all are going to figure out how to navigate that and not put yourself in a situation that is challenging the Constitution, the oath that you took to uphold. Any law that prevents a duly elected candidate from assuming office and substitute that outcome with an unelected appointment stands in direct tension with the constitutional requirements that this office was filed by voters, or filled by the voters.
Gotta wrap it up, your time's run out.
Okay, so, in closing, part of the conversation has been your oath requires you to act impartially and to uphold the Constitution, even when it's inconvenient, even when there's pressure to do otherwise. And in a moment like this, I ask that you guard against groupthink, because when decisions are driven by pressure and inconsistence instead of independent judgment, the Constitution is the first thing to be compromised. So on behalf of the voters of Orleans Parish and on behalf of all of the young people that I have registered to vote over a span of 10 years, it is my position, along with the NAACP of the New Orleans branch, that you not support Senate Bill 256.
Thank you. Please give your name and who you represent.
For clarification, Rep. Carter, can I come back up for a second, 3 minutes if I need to?
No.
I just wanted to clarify if that's what we said earlier. I'm Cherie Thomas with Justice and Accountability Center of Louisiana. We're known for expungements statewide. We are an organization that processes the largest amount of expungements for a single organization. In Orleans Parish alone, last year, we filed over 400 expungements. And so for us, this bill stands for everything else in addition to what may seem like injustice or being targeted or democracy, or not even reform. For us, it's about what's going to happen next if this moves forward as an organization that works directly with the criminal clerk of court's office. Expungements in Louisiana is already the most cumbersome process that we have in any other state that in the United States. It's already the most expensive. And so it's legal processes, and it's not just pushing the paper and the person that has to push the papers around. It's for us the coordination of the clerk, the courts, law enforcement, and state police. And in Orleans Parish, they're one of the parishes that the process is different. And so we keep saying Orleans is different, Orleans is different. That is correct. They are different. In Orleans, for someone to get an expungement, they have to go to court. And so with that, there's court filings, there's notices, there's reviews that's done, there's scheduling. And so for us, changing this system disrupts that system overnight. So for us, we have questions of what happens next. So the bill will go into effect immediately upon signature. What happens to the individuals that already have cases? What happens to the individuals that are already filed? What happens to the scheduled hearings? What happens to ensure that there's nothing lost in between those systems that happened with the previous clerk? So the components that I want to acknowledge is a clear transition, making sure that there is a study to done done, that is going to be done to determine what are the efficiencies. What are we going to do with those individuals? Processing over 452 expungements in 2025 will disrupt our organization and our people. And so it's not just a pushing of paper. Theoretically, an expungement is someone's life, their life to move forward, and it has real impact outside of the voters, but on the actual people that's moving forward. So the bill removes an elected individual that was chosen by 68% of the system, but it also removes efficiency. And so for us, we are strongly opposing 256 because we are not opposing reform, but we want it to be thoughtful, data-driven, and implemented with a clear transition.
Thank you. Please state your name and who you represent.
Hi, my name is Greta Anderson, and I'm a voter in Orleans Parish and a volunteer for Calvin Duncan's campaign. Good afternoon, members of the committee. I'm a resident of New Orleans, and I'm here today to speak in firm opposition to Senate Bill 256. In November, we chose Calvin Duncan to be our clerk of criminal court with 68% of the vote. We voted for his vision of reform and his unique expertise as an exonerated man who understands the system's flaws from the inside and has a very practical recommendation for needed improvements that the city overwhelmingly stands behind. We are told that this bill is about efficiency and streamlining our courts by merging these two offices. But as a citizen who values transparent, data-driven governance, I find the justification for this bill dangerously thin. In any other professional sector, a merger of this magnitude would require a feasibility study, a cost-benefit analysis, and a clear fiscal note. Yet during the Senate floor debate, it was admitted that no study exists. We have no data showing that this will actually save the state or the city a single dollar. The work of a criminal court, handling evidence, managing sensitive trial records, and protecting the rights of the accused is fundamentally different from civil filings. We are days out from this potential transition with no plan. Without specific data on how evidence preservation will be maintained, we are gambling with the integrity of criminal trials and the safety of victims. This will be devastating for victims and their families, many of whom voted for Calvin. By passing Senate Bill 256 and making it effective immediately, this legislature is effectively nullifying the will of the voters. You are telling over 2/3 of New Orleans voters that their voices don't matter and that their choice can be erased by a stroke of the pen before Calvin even takes office in days. We are days out from the swearing in. This is rushed and irresponsible. We have no fiscal note and no plan to support a transition, and we're talking about pushing this through without either of those in a timeline so tight it's before our next paycheck arrives. Days. There is no fiscal note or plan. Is this the right way to govern? I, like the vast majority of voters in New Orleans, stand with Calvin Duncan. I urge you to honor our democracy and to vote no on Senate Bill 256. Thank you for your time.
Thank y'all. Thank you, panel, for coming up. Our next panel will be Ms. Darlene Jones. Is Ms. Jones here? How you doing, Ms. Jones? You really wanted to speak. You sent me 2 red cards.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you got the first one because I know I sent the last one late just now, and it was like this person just sent a lit up card, but I had put my card in earlier, and this time I didn't want my voice to disappear.
Get to speak, I promise you that. All right, Ms. Carolyn Leftwich and Mr. Gary Chambers Jr. Ms. Jones, since you put in 2 cards, I'm going to let you go first. How's that?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Darlene. Oh, I'm sorry.
You're on. Please state your name and who you represent.
My name is Darlene Jones. I'm a resident of Treme in New Orleans, and I represent myself and all of the people who voted for Calvin Duncan. I am a community activist. Most everyone is focusing on, and rightly so, the criminal court and clerk, because we know firsthand that court and its records are a matter of life and death. But if you are a resident of NOLA, have you ever tried to report a violation of a city ordinance? ever had to report a trespasser or someone trespassing? That's municipal court. Ever had a disagreement with a neighbor or someone who owes you money? That's civil court. All of these courts are already brimming, overwhelmed, shorthanded, and underfunded. By combining these courts, it's a deliberate affront to New Orleans and its residents, who would have to wait life-altering times for resolutions and information. You stated that Mr. Duncan wasn't the same as Mr. Duncan being elected wasn't the same as being elected to the legislature, that he was a paper pusher. I beg to differ. He is an elected by the people to fulfill a government position just like all of you. He was elected because there are thousands of people unduly behind bars, some on death row, and they and their families have faith in Calvin, getting and having their records easily accessible, in order, and on time. Those papers you so nonchalantly mentioned are people's lives. But that would mean the release of people unlawfully convicted. It would bring scrutiny to the records. Let's face it, it would bring an unwanted spotlight on the Office of Criminal Records. Also, the idea of these changes being cost neutral is another insult to the people. The state may not pay, but the residents of Orleans and every employee of these offices surely will. Please do not negate the vote of the people. Hear us. Hear what we're saying. Say yes to Calvin Duncan and vote no on Senate Bill 256. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Please give your name and who you represent.
My name is Carolyn Leftwich. I'm representing myself as a voter of New Orleans. I voted for Calvin Duncan because of his integrity and character and of his promises to clean up the mess that Representative Landry detailed. I'm 74 years old. I was able to register to vote when I was 21. I've never missed an election. I vote early and I vote in person. I never ever thought that my vote would not count. And here, it's just very disturbing to me that this is happening. SB 256 is a bill that is both irresponsible and profoundly undemocratic. The bill has had no input from local stakeholders, as Representative Landry discussed. The bill will throw our court system into immediate chaos. What's the plan to clean that up? It gives the clerks no time to merge two distinct offices that serve two different courthouses, each with its own procedures, assets, systems, and technologies. It will most also certainly grind both the civil and criminal courts to a halt, with ripple effects for the entire city and region. Voting for this bill would broadcast to Louisiana voters that our legislators do not respect the will of voters. It sets a dangerous precedent for nullifying the will of all voters in any city in this state, depending upon which party is in office. That's a horrible precedent to set. People are exhausted on both sides of the parties by the extreme positions and rhetoric of representatives on both sides of the aisle who have an all-or-nothing approach to getting things done. Given that the compromise and amendment offered by Senator Royce Duplessis, which would delay implementation of the bill so that there would be a careful, well-organized transition for the merger of the clerk's offices, suggests that there are other motivations besides cost savings. If this bill truly is motivated by saving the money, then where's the research and data that shows the need for this bill? Where's an implementation plan? If this bill is motivated out of disdain for the 68% of the voters who voted for Mr. Duncan, or if it's out of retribution toward Mr. Duncan, then that's not democracy. Please do not please do not ignore the will of Louisiana voters. Either vote no for SB 256 or come up with a workable compromise with the other side of the aisle that serves us all. Thank you.
Mr. Chambers, you want to give your name and your organization?
Gary Chambers, representing myself. I know how the political process works, so I know that most of what we say at this microphone doesn't mean much to you all as representatives. You've got a vote to make in order to do what you feel you need to do for the governor and your politics. But your state ranks number 50 in the nation because you continue to do these things. We rank number 50 in the economy, number 50 in crime. You can shake your head, Representative. Number 46 in education, number 44 in health care, number 48 in infrastructure, number 49 in natural environment. But you got time to take away clerks of court seats. Your priorities are jacked up, and your state continues to lose as a result. But you're proud. You're proud Republicans, proud conservatives. You're Reconstructionist. You're Reconstructionist, and it's racist. And every one of your votes reflect your moral character and the lack thereof. Now, I go to church just like you all. I don't know if we read the same Bible. Do good, seek justice, help the widow, the orphan, the oppressed, and the poor. Isaiah 1:17. Now, you can strip up the Constitution of this state. You can restructure New Orleans all you want, but you're losing even your own voters. Because last year, you lost every constitutional amendment you sit out the Capitol, every one of them, in your own districts. And you came back down here again, playing Jeff's game. Now he wants to be president, and some of y'all won't even be representatives following along with the governor. If you believe in local representation, like I know most of you truly do, you wouldn't be meddling in this local community. But it's a majority black community. And you don't do this anywhere else in the state, which shows it's racist. I don't need data to show me the history of Louisiana. Every legislature that has ever existed in this state has been under majority white control. And you still haven't found a way to get yourselves out of the bottom 10 ranking. Georgia beats you every year. Why? Because they don't have a problem with black people prospering. The government is a job farm. You all are opening up prisons in rural parishes to create jobs for your constituents and trying to take away Calvin Duncan's job in New Orleans, where he creates jobs for black constituents. The prosperity of this state continues to decline because you lack the vision to lead us forward. This is a waste of the voters' time, and I know you're going to vote the way you want to vote anyway. But I wanted to look you in your faces and tell you this is weak, self-serving, and cowardice, and you're Reconstructionists, and history will remember you. Thank you.
All right, we've got 2 red cards left to testify. I'm not accepting any more red cards after these 2. Valerie Jefferson and Chris Alexander. Thank you. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name and who you represent before you testify.
Yes, sir. I'm nervous.
Don't be nervous. It's fine. Just talk loud enough we can all hear.
You're good.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and the committee members of the Judiciary Committee. Today, I come before you with a sad heart because I'm looking at human beings created by God Himself. He made us to be one body. And right now, as a human being, we don't see that. God do not look at us as color. I'm putting it down. God do not look at us as different. He created man and female. He created a body for us to work together. And right now, we do not see that in Louisiana. The Bible says something like, we should know the tree by the fruit it bear.
My mama said, a person speak loud with their mouth is closed. She is a wise lady. She's 96 years old. She's seen a lot of things. She said, Valerie, you just keep going. You do your best. No matter what, you do your best. Don't look at the color. I'm not from the South. I'm from the North. But all of us is one. When justice come forth and do not speak, justice is a word that created by God himself with no color. Justice don't have a color. Justice is fairness. Justice is peace. It's righteousness. That's how I heard today for you all. You have it in your hand, in your heart, to do what's right. That's to do what's right. That's all I'm asking. My name is Valerie Jefferson. I'm speaking on behalf of the NAACP. I am the chair of labor. I know right now I'm not speaking like a labor person, but nevertheless, I'm speaking as your sister in Christ, asking you all just to do what's right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jefferson. Mr. Alexander?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate your accommodating me a little bit late here. Chris Alexander, Louisiana Citizen Advocacy Group. We're not allowed to ask questions down here, so I'll just make it rhetorical. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? We are conservatives. We are Republicans. We honor the rule of law in our party. We don't honor the rule of a master. You're going to entertain this vote today and eviscerate a Democrat election where a man who has overcome things in his life that would kill every single one of you and would kill me and triumphed over all the dark angels of his nature to win an office legitimately. And you're going to come in here in one fell swoop and destroy that. Thomas Jefferson would absolutely be appalled at what you're considering doing here today. Absolutely appalled by it. Even in a place like this, there are certain times when principle must reign supreme. And I know the pressure that every one of you is under. I understand it fully. We're dealing with a governor right now who wants to come in here and eviscerate this seat while creating unconstitutionally a seat in the 6th district that is probably going to be declared grotesquely unconstitutional by our Supreme Court. So we believe in, I guess we just don't believe in the Democrat process in our party anymore. But I'll tell you right now, and I'm speaking for my dad, I'm speaking for my brothers, and I'm speaking as the 6th of 12 kids in my family that have given their blood and their life and their heart to this party, to the Republican Party. If you do this and you make this vote, it is a betrayal of everything that we stand for and believe in as a party, and everything that men who went before us, a lot greater men than us, created to give us. You honor your oath here today. You honor this man. You honor him personally, and you honor the democratic process in your vote, because if you don't, there is no other explanation than that you cowered to the political will of somebody else and did not do what the Constitution and what your own conscience should be charging you to do. God bless you.
Thank you. Let me say that everyone who wanted to testify here today has been given the opportunity to testify. I want the public to know every red card that said they wanted to testify has testified. Now, I have here, I'm fixing to read out a lot of red cards that are opposed but didn't want to testify. But I just want to make it clear, everybody who wanted to testify has testified. I've got here red cards, and we're going to go through. It's 37 of them, so it may take a minute. Dia Gully is opposed. All of these are opposed and did not want to testify. Stephanie Samuels, Ann Borger, Monique Blossom, Bernice Kaufman, Becky Gotskin, Ed Larvadane III, Representative Delisha Boyd, Representative Marcus Bryant, Representative Tammy Phelps, Representative Ed Murray, Barbara Carpenter. Had trouble reading Miss Barbara's right. Representative Wilford Carter, Dana Henry, Representative Amy Adada Freeman, Representative Sylvia Taylor, Representative C. Denise Marcel, Representative Ken Brass, Wabier Castellan, Reverend Alexis Anderson, Sue Press, Marcus Virgil, Jennifer Jamotsky, Jamil Roberts, James Coro, Representative Chastity Martinez, Representative Timmy Chasson, Representative Terry Landry Jr., Representative Alonzo Knox, Representative Joy Walters, Mike Moscow with the Southern Poverty Law Center, Chandra Foster with the Southern Poverty Law Center, Dr. Angel Bradford Rosenberg, Sharon LaHoste, Peter Robbins Brown with Louisiana Progress, Ian Spivey, and State Representative Kyle Green. We have one more witness to testify. Oh, we have a blue card from Lance Maxwell saying in present would not like to speak, but it's a blue card. We've got one.
On the red cards, we do have a letter. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do have a letter that was submitted by the NAACP Legal Defense Fund that was emailed on the record today's date, sent to h-jud@legis.la.gov in opposition to the bill as well.
Representative Jordan, I've checked with my secretary. She didn't get a letter.
Then I will enter it into the record.
All right. If you have it now?
I got it. I'll get them to print it out, and I'll enter it into the record.
All right. I just wanted to let you know, I'm not overlooking it. It just wasn't.
No, well, they did. They said it was sent via email, but I will enter it into the record.
All right. I got Miss Chelsea Richard Napoleon, who's got a white card, who wishes to speak. She is the clerk of Civil District Court of Orleans. And that is the last witness. Senator Jay, if you need her around, it won't be long to close her.
Okay.
Thank you for testifying here today.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, committee members. I am Chelsea Richard Napoleon, the clerk of Civil District Court for Orleans Parish. I've served in the Clerk of Civil District Court's office for over 20 years, having been the Chief Deputy, the number 2 person in the office for over 11, and having served as the elected Clerk of Civil District Court since 2018, and having been re-elected to the position without opposition twice since then. As I sit here before you today, I am also a licensed attorney.
May I interrupt you just 1 minute? Representative, we just received the letter. So you don't have to worry about it. We got the letter from the ACP. I am sorry for interrupting you, but I didn't want him to go through a lot of trouble looking for a letter that we just got. Go ahead.
I attended law school while I worked at the clerk's office full-time during the day. I attended Loyola University's night program. So as I sit here before you today, I've had the experience working within the office. I've also been a part of a consolidation. The consolidation bill from 2006 abolished the mortgage conveyance and notarial archives offices and consolidated their duties, functions, and responsibilities into the Clerk of Civil District Court's office. So I know that consolidation is a process. During that time period, we had a year of work that we did in preparation for the consolidation to actually take place. In terms of creating the new system that was necessary to consolidate those three offices, they were consolidated on January 1st, 2009. The software was implemented in February of 2014. I want to be clear about some of the information so that we understand that this is a process. I understand that the transition is expected to occur immediately, but in terms of looking at the operations of the office, looking at whether or not it is legally compliant as it exists today, looking at whether or not it is appropriately funded for the duties and responsibilities that it is expected to perform will be a process, and there will be costs associated with consolidation. And as you look at the legislation that is before you now, I want to be clear that although it is adding duties and responsibilities to that one clerk, it is also reducing the funding. There's a section of the legislation which talks about the clerk's office receiving 40% of revenue and the court receiving 60% of revenue. Today, the system exists where the clerk receives 50% of the revenue and the court receives 50% of the revenue. So not only does the legislation add duties, functions, and responsibilities, it reduces the funding for how that office can operate. Further, as the premise for the legislation is to make the Orleans Parish clerk's offices more similar to the other clerks, Orleans Civil Clerk is the only clerk's office where there is a revenue sharing split. In every other parish, the clerk retains 100% of the fees in order to fully fund the operations of the office. So the existing financial structure, which is listed in the legislation, does not make the Clerk of Civil District Court's office or the anticipated one clerk similar to everyone else in that regard. So I just wanted to be able to provide that information to you.
I sure thank you. And you said you are a lawyer?
Yes.
Thank you. I ask most clerks, if they're a lawyer or not. I just.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, we got a question. We got two questions, in fact.
Okay.
Representative Owen, you were first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for coming here today, ma'am. I have some very pointed questions. I didn't know you were coming, so these were rolling around in my head as I heard all this for the last couple of hours. It sounds to me like this gentleman was elected because there is a stirring over what goes on in that other place. I saw the news reports about the files in the garbage and all those things, and I have for several years now been tracking the non-unanimous jury paradigm that we live with like a tumor in our soul. And he seems to have been inspired. It's not about him as much. I just want to make sure you understand what goes on in my head as I'm making this decision. Please tell me that, I don't know how this is going to go or how the vote on the floor or any of that's going to go. But if you're put in a position to manage those things, please tell me that you're going to do everything you can to be good government. Because that seems to what have spurred him and what spurred a lot of people is that people crave good government. They crave responsive government because we haven't had the best history in our state in years for my lifetime.
Okay. If I'm put in a position to manage those things, I will provide good government. My history already shows that. I've added efficiencies within the Clerk of Civil District Court's office, not only in terms of the internal operations of the office, having created a technology infrastructure which was implemented this past February, having created from scratch an electronic workflow which allows documents to be transmitted electronically between the clerk's office and the court and back, which was implemented March 9th of this year. I have an understanding of how paper needs to be maintained. As your Clerk of Civil District Court for Orleans Parish, we are responsible for civil records and all of the property records for Orleans Parish. Within that, we also have historical records that date back to the 1700s. We have documents that date back as far as 1734 in French, Spanish, and other languages. I have a conservation department, which is charged with the responsibility of ensuring the viability and maintenance of paper. There are rules regarding climate controls, the temperature and humidity. And I can tell you right now what the limited that I've seen in the Clerk of Criminal Court's office, it is not at that standard in some areas. So there are some things that need to be done, and those things will cost money. And yes, I understand based on what I've seen thus far, which has been limited, what those tasks are.
And our citizens crave good government, so thank you for your answers.
Representative Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good to see you, Madam Clerk. You mentioned earlier in remarks about potential reduction in funding. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes.
If there's a reduction in funding with the consolidation of this criminal district clerk's office and the civil, who would pick up the slack for the reduction in funding?
I don't know.
Is it possible the city would have to pick up the slack in replacing the lost funding? For those?
I don't know.
Okay. That's a good question. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming back down again today. All right. We ready for closing? Senator Morris?
Brought my bodyguard with me.
People wouldn't know it, but we graduated in the same class, Senator Morris and I did. Even though I look a
lot smarter,
little younger than he does.
You're a lot smarter and younger looking. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members, and thank you to the people who thought enough of this to come and testify, whether they agreed with the bill or not. That's democracy, which is what we're witnessing right now. These people in a non-democratic nation, they don't have the right to come and do this and complain and call their representatives by name and et cetera. So this is a democracy in action. This is a legitimately filed bill in accordance with our Constitution. And if it is unconstitutional, we have courts to just make that decision, which they also don't have in non-democratic places. And so this whole thing is a democratic process. And I thank the chairman for following it so rigidly and closely and giving everybody the opportunity to express their opinion. I'm not going to belabor it, but there's been a fair amount of talk about race, and that really doesn't have a place in this argument. It's completely misplaced. The current clerks of court, both of them, are both African American. They have been for the last 30 years. Dale Adkins was the civil clerk before Miss Napoleon was elected, and she was African American. And Mr. Lombard is going out as African American, and I would guess maybe the next one would be as well, but that's not relevant. What's relevant is that we're simply trying to combine offices that has worked pretty well in every other parish in the state. And all of the opposition, nobody has mentioned or addressed the fact that that every other parish has been able to get along fine with one clerk of court. Obviously, one of the reasons behind this is the cost. The rest of the state has to pay more for New Orleans judicial system than any other place per capita. New Orleans gets 70% more funding than any other parish clerk judicial system in the state. Is that fair? Is that fair to all the taxpayers who have to pay for that? Mr. Duncan seems like a very nice man, and I don't dispute anything anybody said about him. I haven't followed his case that closely, and I don't know all of the details, but he's well spoken, and his supporters are passionate, and I respect that. But at the end of the day, this is something I believe should have been done a long time ago. Maybe the timing's not ideal. I'll admit that. But in any event, my 3 minutes is up, and so I appreciate your indulgence and and I would appreciate your vote as well. Thank you.
Representatives Rang, your light's on.
Yes, make a motion to move favorable.
Oh, let me put you on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Morris, I oppose your bill, and as I stated earlier, I have some grave concerns with your bill, and not even on the merits of combining the offices. I have some serious concerns as to the message it sends and how it undermines, in my view, democracy and undermining a democratic process. Because of that, I'm going to make a substitute motion that we defer Senate Bill 256.
All right. So we have a substitute motion to defer. A vote yes is to defer. Understand, a vote yes is to defer. All right. Ms. Jones, will you call the roll?
Kathy.
Representative Bro? Representative Chenevier?
No.
No. Representative Dickerson? No. Representative Edmonston?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Galley?
No.
No. Representative Green?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Hebert? No. Representative Jordan?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Lacombe? No. Representative LaFleur? Representative Landry?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Mack?
No.
No. Representative Newell?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Ogeron? Representative Owen?
No.
No. Representative Ventrella? Representative Wiley?
No.
No. Representative Zerang? No. Chairman Carter?
What's the vote?
We have 5 yeas and 9 nays.
The vote to defer fails. Do I have a Representative Rang's motion is now in order? So the secretary will call the roll. A vote yes is in favor of the bill getting out, and a vote no is for it not to get out. Ms. Jones, will you call the roll?
May I have a moment first? Question. I believe someone had to object to Representative Green, correct?
Huh?
Did someone have to object to Representative Green? Did anybody object to Representative Green?
Well, I would think if it was a favorable and then he had a substitute motion, that is an objection. No. I don't want any. Let's go with the roll call. A vote yes is to let the bill out. A vote no is to not let the bill out. All right. Secretary Jones, will you call the roll?
Mr. Chairman, say that again, please.
Yes is to let the bill out. No is not to let the bill out. Is everybody clear on that? And for the public out there too, a vote yes is to let it out. A vote no keeps it in committee.
Okay, and I want you to repeat, the motion was by Zerang.
Yeah, the motion was by Zerang.
And Representative Newell objected.
and Representative Newell objected. And then Representative Green, who had the substitute, who made the substitute? All right. All right. Please call the roll. I thought he had a substitute motion.
Representative Bro? Sorry. Representative Chenevert? Yes. Representative Dickerson? Representative Edmonston? No. Representative Gallet? Yes. Representative Green? No. Representative Hebert? Yes. Representative Jordan? No. Representative Lacombe? Yes. Representative LaFleur? Representative Landry? No. Representative Mack? Yes. Representative Newell? No. Representative Ogeron? Representative Owen? Yes. Representative Ventrella? Representative Wiley? Yes. Representative Zarang? Yes. That is a total of 8 yeas and 5 nays.
And that means the bill's moved out favorably. Thank you. And I want to really thank the audience today. Y'all have been very respectful of all sides, and I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to adjourn?